You don't want drunks in churches. You reserve drunks in churches for Christmas Eve only.
Stimulating late-night sports conversation for people who know that just trying to find someone sober to talk to at this time of night is like trying to find a pig on the moon.
In the early morning mist I see.
No rules news debate from around the world and around the bend. The Two Mics.
Apply more lager.
On Talk Sport.
Yeah.
Look at the light!
You know you can drink very heavily in cinemas these days. I'm telling you, I'm going to watch. The first night of James Bond Spectre in a theatre where I've got to wear a dinner jacket.
Dear God.
Yes, absolutely.
Where are you going to buy it from? Toys R Us. This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mics, and of course, it's time to say a very, very warm welcome and a very good morning to Mr. Mike, a Porky, a Parry. Very good morning to you, Mr. Parry.
Yeah, very good morning to you, Mike. And look, we need to make a few observations about the old Wayne Rooney situation.
Well, before we do that, before we start making any observations, I'd like you to say to me that you now realise that this is actually quite a big story. As I said to you 2 days ago, when you started denying it.
I've never denied it was a big
story.
No,
you said no, but it's some of the guys allowed to go out for a drink. And,
no, I never said that.
Yes, you did.
No, I didn't.
You said all of that.
I didn't, because in 2 days ago, we didn't know that 10 members of the England team had actually left the hotel and gone out for a drink, so I couldn't have said that, could I?
No, but you said to me the Wayne Rooney situation was, a bit unfortunate. They were picking on him. Here's a guy who just wanted to go out and have a bit of a good time.
I think he got sucked into a wedding party, and he happily said, because he's England's most successful footballer, yeah, sure, I don't mind having my picture taken.
Yeah, but the picture that appeared in the paper yesterday, where he looked completely and utterly bladderated.
But you see, you haven't interpreted it properly.
Well, you don't think he looked bladderated?
Now, this is the first thing we've got to do, is get this absolutely straight, OK? The picture of Wayne Rooney looking absolutely bladderated.
Pie-eyed.
Dishevelled and...
plastered.
And some would say insensible in drink.
Some would say that.
Do you know what that is?
What is that?
That is absolute prima firma evidence.
Prima firma
evidence.
Yeah.
That
is that a legal term?
Yes, sort of.
Okay.
It's a prima firma evidence that Wayne Rooney is not a heavy drinker.
Do you mean prima facie evidence?
Prima facie evidence that Wayne Rooney is not a heavy drinker, is not a bladderator.
How do you know that?
Is not a guy... Well, because he only had a few drinks and he looked in a terrible mess.
Well, you don't know how many drinks he had.
He looked in a terrible mess, and what I'm saying is that is not the face of a man who does that on a regular basis. That is the face of a man who allowed himself, for whatever reason, to be drawn into excess on one particular night and has paid the price heavily by what it did to him on his face. That is clearly a guy who's not an experienced drinker anymore.
Well, you don't know that.
I do know that.
No, you don't, because he may have had so much to drink that was why he looked so bladderated.
No.
Because he was, in fact, so over the edge with drink
that
he'd been doing it for several hours into the early hours of the morning.
No. My view is that because he does it so rarely now, on the one occasion when he did, and he did it because he was in a situation in the hotel, people asked him if he'd pose for a picture at the wedding party. He very happily did that. He's a good guy, and he wanted just to spread, munificence and...
what? Spread what?
Munificence.
Munificence.
And goodwill.
Right.
He did that, got drunk, and the reason his face looks like it does is because he's totally inexperienced at taking drink these days.
I disagree.
He is a family man.
I disagree.
No, I know these things.
Allow me to read you the statement that was issued by Wayne Rooney's management.
Yeah.
Naturally, Wayne is sorry that the pictures taken with fans have been published, right? Although it was a day off for the whole squad and staff, he fully recognises that the images are inappropriate for someone in his position, right? I.e., the captain of the England squad, right? Earlier today, Wayne spoke privately to both Gareth Southgate and FA Technical Director Dan Ashworth to unreservedly apologise. He would like to further extend that apology to any young fans who have seen these pictures. Well, I'm sorry, Wayne, it's a bit late for that. The young fans have already seen the pictures. They're on the front page of that particular newspaper and have been reused all over the internet. And so the last image that you will see of Wayne Rooney this weekend is of him looking completely and utterly off his face.
Yes, but that to me is, is evidence that he does it so rarely now that he can't handle drink. And that's a good thing. For a man who's been England's most successful footballer, he's now reached maturity in terms of the age for a footballer. And he's so... I mean, how many times have we seen that sort of picture featuring Wayne Rooney over the last 5 years? Hardly ever.
I don't think I can remember the last time.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
But that's not the issue, is it?
Now.
But that's not the issue.
It is the issue.
There may be reasons, but there may be reasons why we haven't seen those pictures before. It may be that those pictures were never available. It may be that those pictures were somehow, for whatever reason, not published.
Well, pictures of famous people are pretty available these days in most circumstances.
Yeah, but you know as well as I do, Mike, that there are times when pictures get made available to particular news outlets, and news outlets, for for whatever reason, decide not to publish them. Because they either get leaned on or because they get asked not to publish them for in return for some other favour, or in fact they decide it's inappropriate to do so.
Yeah. The other issue we've got to talk about is this. If 10 other players went out on a premeditated trip, that is a far worse crime than anything Wayne Rooney's done.
Very possibly so.
Because I was saying earlier to the guys on the previous show, to Jason
Cundy and Darren Lewis,
and Darren,
on the sports bar.
That actually that's a premeditated act. Now, somebody within that 10 had to have taken the initiative and said, come on, lads, why don't we get out tonight? Yeah. So they all then would have said, that's a good idea. So they are collectively then dismissing the authority of Gareth Southgate.
Well, is the key question in all of that then, did they go to Gareth Southgate and say, this is what we want to do?
I very much doubt it, and that's why we need a statement from Mr Southgate to indicate to what extent did he know his players were going out, and to what extent does he now think they let him down.
My suspicion would be...
if he gave them an inch, did they take a mile?
My suspicion would be that he did give them an inch, and he did say, you've had a great result against Scotland, go and enjoy yourselves. Because he's an ex-player from not very long ago. He's a young manager who is giving out some very mixed signals for me about whether he wants the England job or not. Keeps talking about how much he's enjoyed the job, but then talks about, it's quite right for the FA to go and search for
Well, I think he wants to up the dosh, doesn't he? It's not much in being quick.
But what I'm saying, do you not feel like I do, that he's giving out very mixed signals about whether he actually wants it or not?
Well, I'd rather concentrate on this issue first, because I want to get absolutely clear.
But it's all connected, though.
Well, I'm going to work within that connection.
Are you?
You see, what I'm saying is, one particular member of that 10 must have taken the initiative. They must have been having a few drinks downstairs in the bar in the hotel, saying, come on, let me get out tonight. Or do you think we should? Yeah, come on, yeah, good idea. So then they have to go upstairs and get changed, according to Jason, who's clearly done this sort of thing and is culpable of the same sort of disgraceful alley cat behaviour. Well, he seemed to know an awful lot about it. He seemed an awful lot about it. And Jason has that look about him, doesn't he? That look of
he knows
irresponsibility in
absolutely
drink.
Not.
You know
Jason Cundy, I would say, is one of the most fine, upstanding members of the ex-footballing class that we have here at TalkSport.
Really?
Yes, absolutely.
Have you ever had a drink with him down the King's Road after a Chelsea game?
I've had several drinks with Jason at various different scenarios. Yes, I have. Quite often he's been very, very responsible and done the work that he had to do beforehand and has never put himself in that kind of state where he would be pictured like Wayne Rooney, looking completely pie-eyed and legless.
How much is the annual subscription now to the Jason Cundy fan club?
I'm not in the Jason Cundy fan club.
Oh, really? Oh, you sound like you are.
I'm just saying that you should not be allowed to attack someone who's not here to defend himself.
So then go out, they go to a nightclub, somebody's got to organise the cars. If there's 10 of them, by the way, that is not just a taxi. That is 3 taxis or 2 people carriers. You could get them all in a
stretch Hummer.
Yeah, all right, a stretch Hummer then. If they organise one of those, that's even more premeditated. They then go out and they get back at 4 or 5 in the morning. I mean, what I can't quite understand is what safeguards were put on them going out. Did Mr Southgate say, midnight, fellas, will be a good time to come home? And if so, what guards did Mr Southgate put on their arrival time being monitored so they're back in the hotel in the time that he'd specified? I want to know all the answers to all those questions.
And we may not get the answers to all those questions. What we do know, though, is that the FA, ever since now all of this stuff has come out, have started to talk about reviewing their policy on what they tell players to do on their days off. Now, if they had a day off on Saturday, which seems to be the case, I mean, it's unrealistic to say to them, go out and come back at midnight, because the game was an evening game, wasn't it? And so, therefore, it wouldn't have finished.
Well, it's Friday, wasn't it, the game?
Yeah, it was Friday, but it was an evening game.
Yes.
And so, the idea that they would be available to go out any time much before 9 or 10 o'clock is ridiculous.
Well, 2 hours out and back on midnight.
When was the last time you went out at 10 and came back at 12?
I am not a professional footballer involved in preparation for another international game.
Of course you're not.
Following Tuesday.
I accept that. Of course you are not. My assertion to you is that Pep Southgate thinks that he's such a good mate of the players that he gave them permission to do it. They may have then taken it a little bit too far. According to one front page this morning, they went out nightclubbing basically until 4:30 a.m. The most important thing, which was not mentioned very much on the previous show, the sports bar, as I said to you, is that they were supposedly very tired towards the end of the game against Spain.
Right.
And yes, it was only a friendly, and yes, it doesn't matter as much perhaps
as
everything else, but they let 2 goals in the last 6 minutes of the game because they were tired. Well, it's not surprising they were tired if they're out till 4:30 in the morning getting obliterated. If you're drinking to that extent, right, you are not allowed to drive a car for approximately 36 hours.
That's right.
Right? Yeah. That takes you almost up to the time where they played the next game on Tuesday.
Yes, you're right, yeah.
So you have to say, something has to be done.
Now, a list needs to be issued. You're right. A list needs to be issued of who the 10 players were.
Yes.
Because you've got to remember that in a squad of, what was it, over 20 players? 21, 22?
I would imagine so.
Because, of course, you're talking about injury pullouts and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
the time, by
like
the way.
Harry Kane. Don't worry about the time. This
I'm
is
worried
an
about the
important
time.
issue. What you have to say is, I would like to know the names of the 10 players, please, because otherwise you are smearing and besmirching the name of decent young men who said, no, I am not going to a nightclub to pour vast quantities of alcohol down my throat, to eye up a few members of the female form, to see if I get lucky, to actually misbehave, to use my multi-million-pound-a-year salary in a way that I can entice other people into my company.
Do you think any of them were carrying shower caps in their pockets?
I have no idea. But he will have said, no, I am not doing that. And I want to know who the players were. I'd like to know very, very much whether John Stones was involved in the 10, because John Stones was so tired even halfway through the game. No, sorry, towards the end of the game, 86, 87 minutes.
Yeah.
That he couldn't actually tackle a defender. He turned his back on him and fell to his knee.
I don't know why you're picking on John Stones.
I'm asking, was John Stones one of them? I want to know the list of the 10 players who went out.
Well, we'll see if we can get that for you.
Yep.
Thank you very much for asking.
Yep.
Here comes Becky. She says, is Wayne Rooney a role model for young footballers or young men? Perhaps on the pitch, but not off it. A shocking behaviour. And I think that's the problem. This is TalkSport.
The Two Mics. Simulcast across the UK on TalkSport and Talk Radio.
So hard to say, although it gives one the fever. Come tequila. Oh, come tequila. Come tequila. Oh, come tequila. Because of Sierra sunrise and margarita will break your heart in the desert heat.
This is TalkSport. We are the Two Mics. Porky Vision coming up a little bit later on.
Yes.
No idea what's going to be in it because Porky, of course, has been off on his secret mission again today.
Exactly.
Isn't a lot of time to watch any television. But one of the things you might have seen today, and we'll come back to the whole drinking culture of English footballers very, very shortly, is that, we've been talking about what is going on at the FA. Have they decided to give Gareth Southgate the job? Why are they shilly-shallying on it? Jason was sort of hinting in the last show that, maybe they've been holding on to their decision because they feel that he doesn't have great control over his players. But Ian Holloway, who's welcomed himself back into the fold, as now QPR manager again, has said this about Southgate and the FA.
What are we doing? Honestly, what are we doing to our own game? What are we actually doing? And Gareth, well done, son. You actually took that almost insult. Oh, we got 4 games, one of them's a friendly. I mean, good God, we're going to take our time. To do what? What have you been doing, any one of you? Who are you? That's how I feel. So now, give him the job. Christ's sake, what more do you want him to do? Did he have to win 2-0? And we could all go, oh, aren't we great? What happens when the tournament comes? He's already won one. I want him to stay in the under-21s and learn a little bit more to protect him, really. He don't just need that job. He needs protection from everybody who's going to absolutely slaughter him. Because that's what happens.
Who are you?
Who are you?
Who are you?
Who are you?
I mean, Holloway is a great entertaining character, right? But, I mean, he's barely been back in the job, 2 days?
Yeah, that's right.
And he's now attacking the FA.
I mean,
who are you? What have you done?
No, on the terraces.
Who are you?
On the terraces, it's all... who are you? Who are you?
Who are
Who
you?
are you? Who are you? Because they're pointing at the other fans and making out that they're no good.
Exactly. But but is he not under the auspices of the sort of FA as a manager of a team in the Football League?
The Football Association, or the controlling body of the industry in which he works.
But could he not be now dragged over the coals and said? Could he not be accused of taking, disrespecting the FA?
He could be, but to be honest, it was such a silly outburst. I'm not even sure why he was doing it.
Well,
any idea?
I don't have any idea why.
Very silly. But
he was asked a question, and I suppose he had every right to answer it.
But the other thing is, I mean, he said, I'm glad to be back at QPR.
Who are you?
Who are you? I want to be back at QPR. This is a great club. It's a
Who
big
are
club.
you?
Who are you?
He said, I ain't going to be daft and say I'm going to get us back in a Premiership next year. And then he said, or the year after. And then he said, or the year after that.
Who are you?
So he's making sure he's got a 4-year plan. You know, who are you?
Who are you?
And then he said,
strange behaviour.
Well, I think it's very strange behaviour for QPR to go back and appoint a guy who was there like 20 years ago or something. You know,
it wasn't that long ago.
Well, it was quite a long time ago, and who hasn't been working in management for about 3 or 4 years, has he?
Well, I mean, he's been out of a job for a while.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
But,
yeah.
I'm sure QPR fans are quite happy to have him back, but I just don't know why he suddenly decided to take on the FA.
Yeah.
By the way, I don't disagree with him because actually I was saying the exact same thing a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
Surely they should just give the guy the job, or say he's not going to get the job.
It was a bit of a ramble because at one minute he's supporting Gareth Southgate. Give him a job, give him a job. And then next minute, isn't he saying, he should have longer in the under-21s, it needs protecting.
Yeah, he should have left him in that job. Yeah.
Left him in that job, who are you?
Who are you?
Yeah.
How about this from Alex, who says, players get scrutinised for being out of touch from reality, out of reach of reality, yet when they act like normal people, they're all over the front page. Well, I'm sorry, normal people actually don't go out until 4:30 in the morning. And as much as people always have this argument where they say, what's wrong with people having a couple of beers, they're young men, let them enjoy themselves. Yeah. They are not like ordinary young men.
No.
Most ordinary young men are not making upwards of £100,000 a week. Yeah. Most ordinary young men are not internationally famous footballers who can command the sort of, money and attention that these guys can.
It's true.
And, if all they have to do for 10 years is to look after their bodies and not poison them with various intoxicants, right?
Yes.
Then I'm sorry, that's what they have to do. That's the sacrifice they have to make.
Of course.
And if they're not willing to make that sacrifice, then they shouldn't be playing for England.
I totally agree with all of that. But I will repeat again, just in case anyone missed at the start of the show, the Wayne Rooney picture of him looking completely smashed, actually, in ring. Bladderated is the word we use on this show. I'm not sure if that applies to the football.
Well, he's apologised and said the pictures show him in what can only be described as inappropriate behaviour.
Yeah, but it was because he has given up drinking heavily over the last 5 or 6 years, become a responsible parent, responsible husband, a pillar of the society.
Well, excuse me, when did he become a pillar of society?
And when he gets dragged into...
excuse me, no, can I just stop you there?
Yeah.
At what point did Wayne Rooney become a pillar of society?
Well, when he decided to become an example to other people in life.
Well, what example?
Well, you've already answered the question I asked earlier. When did you last see Wayne Rooney in a situation like he was at the Grove Hotel looking bladderated, and you said not for 5 years.
Well,
so
no,
that's when he became a member of the staff. Yes,
no,
you did.
I didn't say that. I said I have not seen a picture of him looking that bladderated before.
Exactly.
Which does not mean to say he didn't get that bladderated. I mean, I haven't seen pictures of you getting bladderated. Doesn't mean you don't get bladderated.
Well, now you're making assumptions which are negative towards Wayne Rooney, which is very unfair. You can't just guess and say, he probably has been bladderated. What I'm saying is, he can't handle drink these days. That's obvious from these pictures. And that makes him a good person, because that means that he's not into heavy drinking situations on a regular basis. If he was, he wouldn't have looked as out of place in a drinking environment as he did. So I would say he can take the pluses out of this. I would say it just proves he is a good and decent fellow.
No, it doesn't at all. How about this from Sean in Tranmere? Talk about double standards. Hi, lads, he says, this Rooney story is utter garbage, driven by people who despise footballers. When Flintoff and his mates were drunk, he used a different word, which I won't repeat, after the Ashes, it was celebrated. Footballers are no more role models than drug-addled film stars.
Yes.
Well, first of all, Sean in Tranmere, one of the reasons that people rather, I would say, kind of... shall we say, didn't go over the top when Flintoff and others got drunk. It was not celebrated by everybody. There was plenty of pieces written about how terrible it was.
Yeah, disgusting in my
example
view.
And all that. However, they had just won the Ashes. England have won nothing. And they haven't won it for a very long time.
He then went on, didn't he, a few years later, to get himself lost in a pedalo in a drunken haze.
A what?
Pedalo.
Pedalo?
Yeah.
Pedalo.
In a drunken haze over in the Caribbean somewhere, didn't he?
Well, I mean, there's several stories about Freddie Flintoff doing all sorts of things.
He literally he had to be rescued, I think, from a pedalo in some Caribbean sea or something.
Yeah, very
like
possibly so. Now, how about this one from Jester, who says the two mics look bladderated and smashed in every picture.
What?
Which I think is very unfortunate.
It is very unfortunate.
And Zobon says this shows that Rooney is approaching the end and he needs to rethink his career.
Well, he doesn't need to rethink his career at all. His career plan will be decided for him by...
Who are you?
By his advisors and all that kind of stuff. No, people love having a pop at Rooney because They think many people, by the way, including what I would call the middle classes. Who
what, the people you aspire to belong to? You mean?
No, the chattering classes.
You love the chattering classes. You want to be one of them.
The chattering classes, the people who disseminate information in this country.
Yes.
They don't like working class boys like Wayne Rooney becoming
you're not
multi-millionaires.
You're always. You only the other day
Yes.
were you not saying that you wished that there was first class at the back of the plane, so that if the plane crashes nose first, the poor people get killed first.
No, I didn't say that.
Yes, you did.
No, I didn't. I said if you pay 3 times or 4 times as much for your seat on a plane, you deserve an area that's safer than the other areas.
Yeah, so you're basically willing to sacrifice the guys like in the First World War, send them over the top, you'll sit there smoking your cigar, drinking your brandy, and going, I'm right behind you, boys.
No, I mean, people who... Look, if the cheap seats were at the front of the plane, then the people who bought the cheap seats would know that they're buying a seat that's more vulnerable to kill them in a crash than the seat at the back of the plane. Simple as that.
Right.
But I mean, that's putting it very brutally.
And that sounds man of the people rubbish.
And that sounds very harsh and somewhat immoral. So I'm not getting into that discussion. In fact, I withdraw what I've just said because you don't want anybody on an airplane with you to be killed for obvious reasons.
Who are you?
It's a terrible thing to even think about.
Who are you?
You were the one that came out with it, though.
No, I didn't.
So you now say that you'd be happy to fly first class in the front of the plane. Is that what you're saying?
Well, only if the plane crashed backward first, if you see what I mean.
Anders says this, criticise Holloway all you like. He still had a salient point. Anders, I agree. I've been saying
what
exactly
was his
the same.
salient point?
His salient point was give him the job.
Yeah.
Why on earth?
But I thought he said in the same outburst, he needed more under 21 time. He wanted protecting. He should have been protected. He should.
Oh, who are you? He said he'd already won the tournament.
Why don't he just get on with it? Hey, get on with it. Get on with what? Get on with it.
We're talking like a pirate day. No, but the thing is, he sounds more West Country now than he did before.
He does.
And what do you think he's been doing?
I think when he went to Blackpool, he started talking a bit like Blackpool people, but now he got back to West Country, hasn't he? Down Plymouth and all that, like.
QPR in West London, not, West Somerset.
No, I know, but they're in the south, aren't they? Nearer Cornwall and Devon than Blackpool is, isn't it? Eh?
Who are you?
Give him the job.
Give him the job. Give him the job. Yeah.
More coming up soon.
Give him the job. Who are you? Who are you? Who are you?
I have to say, that is very clever.
It's very good.
Boys behind the glass.
Excellent.
Who
well
are
done.
you?
Who are you?
Tremendous. Steve says Porky's Bristolian accent is very good. Me babber.
Thank you. Thank you.
But not everybody agrees.
I got a bit of the West Country in me, I have.
Yeah, really. I don't want to hear too much about that. Here's one from Def, who says, loving Porky's tour of Britain, 12 different accents in one paragraph of Ian Holloway's rant.
Yes, exactly.
And Dave says, should Wayne Rooney resign as captain over his bladderation antics?
No.
Surely the point is that, as we go, you were saying that there's not any longer going to be an international break until the new year, right?
Yes,
is it February?
March,
yeah. I mean, is there what are the chances of between now and then, which is we're talking 4 months away, that Wayne Rooney's even going to be in contention?
Well, absolutely right.
To be a player for England, never mind being captain.
Yep, no, could be absolutely right. Could be right. Yeah.
Why would you do that?
Why would you do that? Indeed. Anyway, look, the point is, it's here today, gone tomorrow, sort of stuff, isn't it?
Well, it's not, though. No, it's not, because it's indicative, I suppose.
No, it is because the organisation in which it happened will not reform now until March. That's what I'm saying. That's why Gareth Southgate has got to come out and make a statement tomorrow on exactly, A, how he responds to these revelations, and B, to what extent did he allow his players to exercise freedom, and did they abuse that freedom?
But it's like everything else, isn't it? I mean, had England had a fantastic result against Spain,
yes.
Were they, world beaters? Were they getting anywhere near the quarterfinals or indeed the semi-finals of major tournaments? People wouldn't care. People would not care. But Jose Mourinho's having to go now at Southgate, saying, how dare you let my captain from Manchester United get himself into this situation?
Yeah.
And so other Premier League managers, I'm sure, will start having little faith, even less faith in the FA and in Gareth Southgate if he's going to let their players, who are very finely tuned, finely honed, carefully, given, all sorts of different advice about, diet, about fitness, about everything else.
Yeah.
He's allowed them to go out to some nightclub until 4:30 in the morning. It's not on.
Well, I mean, the thing is, for Jose Mourinho, it is honestly manna from heaven. Because Jose, the reason why he went on about, stay in a hotel, is he likes to deflect attention from himself when he's not doing well. And he can blame the FA now for problems for the next sort of 10 days or 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It's all down to the FA. They didn't keep my players under control. That's why we need to know a list of the players, the 10 players who
knowing
went on
knowing the way that these things tend to unfold, as the Wayne Rooney story unfolded, it took 2 days before we saw the picture of him looking bladder-rated, 3 days for him to apologise.
Yes.
I would guarantee that by tomorrow we will know some of the names of those players, and there'll probably be pictures.
Yeah, you think so?
Because I think what papers are now doing and being quite clever about is putting something out like that without pictures. And so they wait until denials come in, they wait until people say, well, it wasn't me, I wasn't there, and then suddenly a picture will appear.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I know.
But why are these footballers so ridiculously irresponsible?
Well,
do they not think that if they go out, they're famous enough to be spotted, do they not think a story will be written?
One of the problems is when you've got everything in life, you push to excess, don't you?
Everything except brains, apparently.
Well, I know a few of them have got brains. I'm quite impressed when I hear people like Lallana speak and that kind of stuff.
But if he's out till 4:30 in the morning in a nightclub, expecting it not to be made public, he hasn't got any brains. Sorry.
But we don't know that he was. That's why I'm insisting on a list. We need a list of the players who were out and who was the ringleader and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
How about this from Scott? In elite sports, I thought the first 24-hour recovery was crucial. Who exactly is the medical team?
Yes.
Well, that's another good point. I mean, if Rooney was injured, right, and he was told, well, you're not going to be needed for Spain, who on earth, if it was somebody from England or indeed Manchester United, would recommend that it's a great idea, since you're injured, to go out and get lashed?
Yeah, well, I mean, we've been over this time and time again about the Gascoigne situation. The Gascoigne situation was that he never recovered from injury ever properly because he was always intoxicated, i.e. to the extent that his blood was always mixed with alcohol. And blood carries oxygen to knit bones and muscles and cartilages back together.
Well, every single player...
And he was never given the chance to do it because he was never sober.
Every single player...
In terms of content of alcohol in his blood.
Every single player who has turned out to be somebody who likes going out and drinking quite a lot of alcohol...
Yes.
...has always had a career which ended prematurely. Is that not true?
Well, I mean, what you've said has a ring of authenticity about it. I mean, for instance, Jack Wilshere has been beset by injury problems, and there have been several revelatory stories about his social life.
What about Andy Carroll?
I was about to say, Andy Carroll has been beset by injuries throughout his career, and there have been revelatory stories about his social life. Same thing with Gascoigne. Same thing, really, going further and further back, with players from days of yore. But there is a connection, there has to be, and medically and scientifically, there's got to be a connection. If you drink loads of alcohol and you're an athlete, you won't be as good an athlete if you don't drink alcohol.
And also, common sense tells you it's not a very good idea to do it.
Exactly.
And like I said, if you've only got to really do it for 10 years, maybe 15 years, maybe even 18 years.
Yep.
When you get to the age of about 34, 35, and you retire from football as a player, you can drink as much as you like. You can eat as many hamburgers as you like.
Yes.
You can be as unfit as you want.
Well, unless you're a coach and you're trying to set an example to your players.
Yes, but my point is basically that all they have to do, if they can't manage to go without going to a nightclub throughout a 10-year career at the top of the game of football, earning in excess of £5 to £10 million a year, then what is wrong with them? You talk about people like Messi, you talk about Neymar, you talk about Suarez, you talk about Ronaldo. All of those guys are never found in nightclubs in the middle of the night. Before a game or after a game. They might do a bit of that stuff when they're not actually playing during a season.
Quite right.
But they don't behave like that.
Yeah.
It's like a British sickness.
Now, I'm going to reveal something to you, talking about revelations.
Are you?
Did you know that on the night that Wayne Rooney, England's most successful player, was invited into the wedding party?
Yes.
Did you know he played the piano?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he played the piano.
He played the piano?
Played the piano.
Is he any good?
Well, I don't know. There's a picture of him here playing the piano.
Well, there's a picture of him sitting at a piano.
Yeah, Wayne Rooney surprised wedding guest at the England's team hotel when he sat down and played the piano.
Right. What did he play?
Captain,
Chopsticks?
Eh?
What did he play? Chopsticks?
No, it says here, actually, you might be right. It says he mashed the keys.
So he didn't actually play anything?
Well, I'm not sure. But I wonder if he can play the piano. That'd be quite something, wouldn't it, if he played the piano?
Well, I mean, lots of people can play the piano.
Yeah, but I mean, you normally associate playing the piano with somebody of sort of sober disposition and and pretty high intelligence quotation, don't you?
Now, in the picture of him sitting at a piano, which looks like a very, very small, upright white piano, he seems to be surrounded by a load of people, some of whom are wearing England gear, right?
Are they?
Well, the guy who's
only the one on the right.
Well, the one on the right, but also the guy immediately behind him appears to be wearing something with an England badge on it.
Yeah, that's true. Yes,
right.
Yes.
And the other two people to the left of him look as though they are people who are either security staff or something connected to England, don't they?
Well, if you look at the footwear, they've all got. They
are all wearing trainers of the same type.
They look to me like Puma trainers.
Yeah.
Them.
So what we're saying here is that Wayne Rooney was not on his own acting as a guy who just sort of was invited into somebody's wedding.
But he didn't leave the hotel and go to a nightclub.
Doesn't matter.
This is the point.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. That is the critical issue.
Well, no, the critical issue is who are these people? Who are these guys who have accompanied Wayne Rooney into this particular scenario? And how many of them were involved in the management of the England setup? And how many of them have allowed him to get as bladderated as he did?
Yeah.
That's an important point.
What's the important point?
Well, what I've just explained to you. How many of those guys in this picture where he's playing the piano are involved in the England setup? And if they are involved in the England setup, in what capacity? And how many of them allowed him to get as bladderated as he did?
Yeah.
Without realising that it would be a massive story. Don't forget, he's apologised. You know, people are complaining that, oh, what's going on? Here's one from Lee. He said, Rooney, he had a drink. He didn't kill anyone. It's pathetic the way people are going on about it. Live a little, life's too short.
Yes.
Well, Lee, it's Wayne Rooney who's apologised, not only to the young fans to whom he thinks he's a role model, but also to Gareth Southgate. And to Dan Ashworth, who's the technical director of the FA.
Yes.
He's apologised. He knows he did something wrong. So don't tell me that somehow we are making a mountain out of a molehill.
OK. Listen, I think we've got to get the timing of this right, OK? Because I think you've referred to an initial report which said they went out after the Scotland game, but the Scotland game, of course, was on Friday.
That was on Friday, yes.
Because then we were debating about what time they might have gone out and all that kind of stuff. However, a subsequent updated report says that actually the players got in at 4:30am on Sunday morning.
So it was a Saturday night escapade.
Looks like it.
Right.
It looks like it didn't happen after the Scotland game.
Which takes it even closer to the Spanish game.
It does. You're absolutely right. And as Wayne Rooney apologised yesterday, it was understood that several more aces went to a local nightclub where they partied till 4:30am on Sunday, the day they had been told to report back. So that is even worse. Because you're absolutely right. Had they gone out immediately after the Scotland game, as players often do, still bursting with adrenaline and the puffed up chest of success because they had a good 3-0 victory, then that might have been marginally understandable till 4:30am on Saturday. Yeah. However, as you quite rightly say, they were resuming training on Sunday.
Yeah.
And they were out till 4:30am on the day they're resuming training. Yeah. That is completely unacceptable.
Again, I wouldn't give a monkey a monkeys if in fact it turned out that they played brilliantly, that they were in fact the best turned out athletes that you could ever see. But when Gareth Southgate actually gives the excuse that the reason they gave away 2 goals in the last 6 minutes of the game was because they were a bit tired and their concentration was lacking, then perhaps there's a reason for that, and perhaps that reason is because they were out on the Terps.
Yeah. What I don't quite understand is, this day off procedure.
Yes.
Now, that's started because the players used to complain about being, holed up away from their families for a continuous period of time, sometimes up to 10 days.
So they wanted to see their kids and all the rest
of it. See their kids and all that, and I know for a fact that
their kids were in the nightclub.
Sorry?
Do you think their kids were in the nightclub?
Of course they're not. Of course they're not. You're being trite.
Well, no, I'm asking a rhetorical question.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is the whole idea of the night of the day off was that you get a car to meet you outside Wembley, so that would be after the game, 7:30, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, something like that. That car whisks you home, gets you home at midnight. Yeah. You then spend all day Saturday with your kids and with your family. Right. And then a car comes and picks you up at 7am on Sunday and takes you back to the training camp. That's what the day off's about.
Back to St George's Park.
Yeah, or wherever they were, the Grove. Yeah.
The Grove, which was favoured by Sam Allardyce for lots of reasons, but we'll get back into that a little bit later on. Coming up, we're going to be talking to Mark Donaldson. He'll tell us about what life is like on the other side of the Atlantic. And also, I've got to mention to you this bomb that's been discovered in Portsmouth, of course, because that's the
closed down Gunwolf Quays.
Second one in about a month, isn't it?
It is, yeah, absolutely.
I hope somebody's out to get you.
Well, I hope not. I hope I'm not being targeted. I mean, it never used to happen before I went and lived there, so who knows?
Well, it's shocking business.
Could
be,
Comrade Putin has decided, we must silence the Burgmeister.
Why is he German now?
No.
Who are you? This is Talk Sport.
That's right, yeah.
Who are you?
The Two Mics, simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
So I'm moving to New York 'cause I've got problems with my sleep.
This is Talk Sport. We are the two mics. There will be a podcast coming out a little bit later on, of course. And, of course, it's Porky Vision coming up a little bit later on.
Yep.
Porky's been very busy with his secret mission.
Indeed.
But nevertheless, he has managed to see some television. And he will be giving you the best TV review this side of Saskatchewan.
Yes.
If you like. Lots of great tweets coming in. Here's one from Retired in Mexico. He says, Parry wants to know if Stones was one of them. What about Jagielka? Isn't he interested in him as he plays for Everton?
Yes, of course I am. Of course I am. I want to know if Jags was involved in the questionable behaviour. Yes,
Right.
I do.
Well, before we move on to that, let's talk to Mark Donaldson, because last night, of course, the United States got slaughtered in the old CONCACAF scenario and the World Cup qualifying, and Jurgen Klinsmann's job may be hanging by a bit of a thread. Let's talk to Mark and find out. He's from ESPN, of course. Mark, a very good morning to you.
Morning, boys. How are you both?
Very well indeed. We're in the midst of one of these, dramas about Wayne Rooney, the team from England, the England squad going out on the lash until 4:30 in the morning. I suppose over in the US of A, they've got slightly more sort of team-related performance concerns.
The way he defended last night, I think John Brooks was with Wayne Rooney out on the lash, because that was embarrassing. They went to Costa Rica and were obliterated, certainly in the second half. It's funny, a colleague of mine, Adrian Healy, said that Jurgen Klinsmann wanted to take the United States to a kind of new era. Well, he did. He took them back to the 80s with some of the defending, and they were shocking. I mean, Altidore, he lost his discipline. Bobby Wood up front didn't get a sniff. Just defensively, they were just horrible. But I suppose it's a bit like the European qualifying system. The hexagonal means you play 10 games. They've only played 2. It's the first time in many years they've lost their opening 2. But the next 3 games are very winnable before they go to Mexico next June.
But what's happened to the Jurgen Klinsmann effect? Because it all seems to be going a bit wrong, doesn't it?
Yes. A lot of changes, a lot of tinkering. He's becoming a bit like Ranieri of old, and 4-4-2 has become a 3-5-2 and then a back 4 again last night with very little support. Michael Bradley's come under fire and come in for a bit of stick as well. This kid, Christian Pulisic, is the next big thing, they hope. Didn't get much of the ball last night. I think the frustrating thing was if they'd done their job and beaten Mexico in the opening game, it's not an easy place to go for the United States. They don't have a good record in Costa Rica, and it wouldn't have been the end of the world if they'd lost there after beating Mexico. But they lost at home to Mexico in Columbus, 4 consecutive 2-0 wins prior to that game, and then they lost. So they're not staring down the barrel of a gun, but they do find themselves bottom of the 6-team group. And Klinsmann's under fire. Klinsmann's under pressure. And the name that was certainly mentioned after the game and today is the Los Angeles Galaxy coach Bruce Arena. So not only might they be losing Steven Gerrard, they may be losing Bruce Arena, who, of course, has already been in charge of the United States at the World Cup in 2006.
I was about to say, Mark, it's all a bit of a merry-go-round, isn't it, amongst these American coaches? Because American coaches, unfortunately, still don't have the respect of the world when it comes to football, do they?
No, they don't. And that's a good point, Mike, because there was a comment made on Twitter a couple of weeks ago, and I know you and I and Mike as well, we had a kind of discussion about Bob Bradley.
That's right. Bob, push the envelope. Yeah.
We had that chat, but in a way, there was humour to the chat that we had. There was a disrespectful comment. I can't take Bob Bradley seriously because of his accent made by someone on Twitter. Yeah. Now, the world that we live in these days, I mean, goodness knows what people make of that. You can't come out and say something like that because...
Yeah, but unfortunately it's true, Mark. I know what you're saying, and you live amongst people who speak like Bob Bradley, and so you know the high level...
He lives amongst them. Well, it's not like he lives in the Amazon rainforest where people speak differently.
Hang on, he lives in America, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Well, that's living amongst people who speak like Bob Bradley. Is that difficult to understand, you four-eyed freak?
Makes it a freak. It's a bit harsh. Yeah. It makes it sound as though you're talking about some weird and wonderful land above the clouds.
Mark, I'll just go on. Thank you very much indeed. So you wake up every day and you talk to people who sound exactly like Bob Bradley, so you're used to it and all that. But I can tell you, from this side of the Atlantic, to hear a guy talking about football, our traditional game, which is inbred into us in Europe, South America and Britain, it does sound odd when a guy talks about, the traditional game of football with an American accent. It is difficult to take him seriously.
Tucker.
This is a good point, because I feel when I talk about NFL to friends and colleagues over here and to people who maybe don't know me, I feel I've got to try harder and I've got to give more because I'm not an American, and I'm speaking about an American sport. And it's exactly, I totally get what you're saying there. It's exactly the same. If you've got an American accent, and look, I'm in an industry over here. I was brought over by ESPN because
they were desperate. They
were very desperate. At the time, a British accent was on vogue in this country because people think, rightly or wrongly, and certainly wrongly in my case, that just because we've got a British accent, we know what we're talking about. Yeah. There's a number of British accents over here in commentary who, as a fan, they're not my first choice. So I feel that I have to work harder in persuading people that I've got a fair knowledge of NFL. I've not got an excellent knowledge of NFL, but because my knowledge is brought with a British accent, I sometimes think, what does he know? He's British. What does he know about NFL? And then when you tell them how popular it is in the United Kingdom, certainly not in your household, Mr. Parry, but everywhere else.
When you say household, do you mean the household of one?
No. He means which of my houses, which of my households.
There's only ever one person in either of them.
No, there's not. How do you know? You're never in them. You never get into my household.
I came to one of your places and had a locked room. That's all I know.
No, it hasn't got a locked room. That's just a myth he puts on. I didn't let him stay because I didn't want the fatness and slobness to be
there's only
endemic.
one fat slob per apartment. That's true. Anyway, the point is, Mark, you're absolutely right, and I know what you're saying. However, the problem is for Porky, he has faced this prejudice all his life because people look at him and assume he knows nothing about anything. The way that he speaks, it makes people think that this guy couldn't possibly be an expert.
Yeah, that's completely untrue.
So I feel your pain on that one. But the USA only 2 years ago was the role model. I mean, again, England, who are still now faced with all sorts of problems with what the players get up to after the game is over. Suddenly the USA was somebody to copy. For a while it was Germany. Let's copy Germany. Let's copy, Brazil. Let's copy Argentina. Let's copy America. Look how well they did in the Brazil World Cup.
Yeah.
However, now it's all kind of gone to nothing, isn't it?
Yeah, well, whether it's gone to nothing, certainly the grassroots level is very different. You can't say that the United States and their qualification for the World Cup in 2018 in Russia has any correlation with the grassroots level. But is it not the world that we live in? If things are going well, it's the best in the world. But if things suddenly go wrong and there's a bit of a crisis, it doesn't take us anywhere near as long to have a crisis anymore, and suddenly people want people out. Now, here's one for you both. Jurgen Klinsmann. Irrespective of whether he gets fired or not, because we don't know what's going to happen. It's not March is their next game. Would you two take Jurgen Klinsmann for the England coach over Gareth Southgate?
Never.
Yes.
Never.
I would.
No, I wouldn't.
I would have done. And in
Why?
fact, I said it at
Why?
the time.
What's his qualification?
Well, his qualification is, one, he was a much better player than Gareth Southgate. He worked with the German setup when they were setting up what they now have.
And he became the German national coach.
Yeah, he did.
And failed.
No, he didn't fail.
He failed.
No, hang on. We've had this conversation already, which you've forgotten. He was able to set up what Germany is now reaping the benefits of, okay? He also managed Bayern Munich,
ludicrous.
a massively successful European side. Sorry, Mark, I would like to have a conversation with you rather than him. You're absolutely right to say that, Jurgen
How far
Klinsmann,
back are you going to go?
Hang on, Jurgen Klinsmann...
Maybe Hermann Göring set up, the situation that now leads to the German national team.
He hasn't slept since last Friday, by the way. The point is that if you compare Gareth Southgate's, career as a footballer and a manager with Jurgen Klinsmann, there's no contest, isn't that right, Mark?
The reason I ask is because back in 2006, when Klinsmann was in charge of the German side, they reached third place in the World Cup. They nearly got to the final. Okay, they didn't, but they came third.
Right.
Now, we've had the discussion, the three of us, about England always qualify, and maybe the lack of competition in qualifying hinders them when it gets to the major tournaments. But you've got a guy here who knows not just how to qualify, but how to do things once you're at a World Cup. But does the fact that he's struggling right now with America and whether or not the players all like him as well, because you know what he's like, he's not frightened to have an opinion. Is he the type of guy that the English national team need or want, or do you think they should go for the safe option that is Gareth Southgate, who's not going to put noses out of joint, but he might not be as good when it gets to the main tournament?
Yeah, well, I'm afraid I'm still of the view very much that the England coach should be an Englishman. And I know you're going to say, well, that restricts your options enormously. Yes, it does, but we still do have people like Eddie Howe and Alan Pardew who I think would fill the role.
But neither of them have achieved anything either.
And more successfully than Gareth... Well, Gareth Southgate hasn't achieved anything.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
So why would you put him in front of Jurgen Klinsmann, who has?
Very, very... Well, OK, so you say, let's appoint somebody who's achieved something. Yeah. So then we get old Capello. He'd achieved a lot in the game. He didn't achieve anything in England because you can't suddenly, in my view, Malt, you can't bolt on, a successful continental manager onto the structure, which is the FA.
The FA perhaps is what is wrong then. Perhaps the FA is at fault.
Perhaps it is.
Do you not think it's sad that in this day and age, we're speaking of November 2016, that you lot can't come up with someone who's decent for the England job? I
totally agree.
And we in Scotland can't come up with anyone who's decent for the Scotland job. And if you go down the whole role of he's got to be Scottish, then for us it's going to be Alex McLeish or Paul Lambert or Steve Clark. For you guys, again, it's an Alan Pardew and Eddie Howe or someone like that. What's wrong with thinking a little bit outside the box? For Scotland, I'd love to see Lars Lager back. He can take someone, because we're not going to get Michael O'Neill. Why should Michael O'Neill leave Northern Ireland and go to Scotland? But for England, I just think if you're going down the English only, and I totally get that, Mike, if you want an English coach, but it's desperately sad that right now we don't have quality coaches who can just step in and they are obvious candidates. That does not exist.
Now, we've only got about 30 seconds left, Mark, so you're going to have to answer this one very quickly. Steven Gerrard, Frank Lampard in America, success or failure?
Not for me. They can argue all they want that they've raised. I mean, David Beckham was a success because he raised the MLS name outside of America. But for me, it was just a boost to their paychecks, and now they'll come back. And they might have done something grassroots level, I'm sure they have in Los Angeles and New York for Lampard as well. But not for me. Until MLS brings decent quality, big names over to this country in their late 20s, in the prime of their career, then MLS is going to continue as is. So for me, no thank you.
Failure. Thank you very much indeed. Mark Donaldson there from ESPN giving us his view on Jurgen Klinsmann. Why he's not here, I don't know. And Gerrard and Lampard failed again. Failed as a midfield partnership. Failed as ambassadors of football in America. This is TalkSport. This is TalkSport. We are the two mics. There will be a podcast coming out a little bit later on. And, of course, tomorrow, the Porky Quiz is going to be on the history of British television.
That's right.
Yes.
Yes, it's a good one.
It will be a good one.
Now, as our long experience in national newspapers has equipped us with the ability to sometimes put pieces of a jigsaw together,
indeed,
I'm going to present two facts to you, OK? And you can tell me whether you think they're linked.
OK.
Now, as you've pointed out to me on the back page of the Times, which will drop on people's doormats in the morning, it says the FA, this is in the middle of their report about FA anger at Rooney's hotel binge.
Right.
It says the FA initially joined the Rooney camp in playing down the incident. But after the emergence of new pictures yesterday, the governing body issued a statement saying all England personnel have a responsibility to behave appropriately at all times.
Yes.
They will be embarrassed about the fact that they, first of all, came out with a statement of defence for their captain and their most capped outfield player ever and England's highest scorer, only then to have to revise things.
Yes.
In another newspaper, there is this report. Amanda Doherty, who's a friend of mine, by the way, and a very, very able lady, has quit as the FA's Communications and Public Affairs Director.
Now, this is a woman as well who, if I can just interrupt you, who worked for Arsenal at one point, I believe, right?
She did. She worked in the Arsenal press office quite a few years ago now, because I think since then she's been operating her own PR agency.
Right.
But she was right at the top of the game at Arsenal. In fact, she was so well thought of at Arsenal that when she left, they had a leaving party for her at the Emirates.
Right.
And Ashley Cole, who many years before had moved on to Chelsea, actually came over and turned up and, was the star guest.
So no question about her abilities.
No question about her ability, no question about the respect she holds in the game. But it says here, director after just 6 months in a role that never suited. The FA are merging their communications department. Now, it seems to me they could be linked.
Well, indeed.
And I'm not suggesting for a moment, because I wouldn't, because I know Amanda well, that, Amanda, wasn't on top of things. I'm suggesting she probably was very much on top of things, and that the FA, in their wisdom, are issuing statements all over the place and in a way, bungling their way through it. That's what I'm saying.
Well, one of the things that newspapers do, as I've been mentioning a bit earlier in the last hour, is that they'll publish a story and people will say, the thing is, where's the picture? Where is the picture that shows him to be batterated? Because the first day, there wasn't a picture that showed that. There was a picture of Wayne Rooney with a couple of fans. He looked like he was enjoying himself. He didn't look particularly the worst for wear. But the picture that was published yesterday showed, without any question, that he was, under the influence of the old grog, right?
Yes, I agree.
Now, presumably, somebody at the FA will have asked, before they decided to stand up his version of the story and say, there's not a problem here, they would have asked someone in his camp, is there likely to be anything that is going to come out which is likely to make things worse?
Yes.
And if you're told, no, there isn't, and then a picture that then subsequently appears, everybody looks stupid.
Yeah, it was quite a surprising situation because the story did come out first, didn't it? That Wayne Rooney had been into the wedding party and all that kind of stuff.
And he'd been invited in by these people,
in, and the only picture then showed him actually looking quite normal.
Yeah.
But with reports that he was red-eyed and red-lipped.
Yeah.
And I was very surprised that there wasn't a picture of him red-eyed and red-lipped on that night, because how are they going to stand that up? And yet the following day, the subsequent edition of the newspaper published a picture of him red-eyed and red-lipped.
Yes.
So it's all a bit strange.
And also, looking at the picture that we talked about in the last hour of him playing the piano,
yes,
or just generally thumping around on the keys, it would appear to me, anyway, from that picture, and it's only my instinct and supposition that says this, it looks like the people that are standing around the piano are all part of the England setup.
It does,
It does not look as if he's on his own.
Yes.
There's also another picture on Twitter, which I haven't managed to source independently,
that's right,
where he's standing with Phil Jagielka.
Yeah.
Now, Phil Jagielka may have been part of this as well. We're not really sure.
No, we don't know.
What does appear to be the case is that Wayne Rooney did not, in and of himself, decide just on his own to go into this wedding party. And also now the other news that is on the front page of the Sun about 10 other members of the England squad going out on a nightclub sort of binge.
Yeah.
Shows you that there is clearly no discipline within the organisation.
Well, I mean, that to me is the worst crime, because they've sneaked out the hotel, haven't they? Unless...
we don't know that.
Well,
they may have got permission from Pep Southgate to go off and enjoy themselves.
Okay, maybe they did, and maybe he said be back at midnight. They didn't get back till 4:30 in the morning. Either way, they treated him with utter contempt because they knew they were training the next day. If you go out boozing until 4:30 in the morning, and by the way, we don't know what levels of alcohol were consumed.
No.
Because I heard Jason saying earlier, Jason's a former professional footballer, he knows a lot of players go out to the nightclubs just for the atmosphere and to do, throw a few shapes and that kind of stuff, but don't necessarily binge drink,
No.
But I mean, if they were binge drinking, that's going to be very obvious to the coach a few hours later on a Sunday morning when, you are gasping, running round a field and emanating, very strong alcohol fumes from your lungs.
Sure. And as I said, he gave the excuse that the reason the 2 goals were given away in the final minutes of the Spain game
they were
was
tired.
because the players were tired.
Yeah.
Now, how about this? James says, come on, Mike, do you think he's apologised because it's the right thing to do, or is he genuinely sorry? Yeah. Well, we don't know the answer to that.
No, we don't.
But, I mean, clearly it's quite a big deal. For those of you who think this is not a big story, if Wayne Rooney has issued an apology, an unreserved apology, to Gareth Southgate
that's right,
and to Dan Ashworth, then clearly it is a massive thing.
Yes.
Here's one from retired in Mexico. Parry wants to know if Stones was one of them. What about Jagielka? Isn't he interested in him as he plays for Everton?
Yeah, of course I am. I'm interested in whichever England player it was, and I promise you that, I'm not going to suddenly introduce this shield of protective dialogue just
shield
because...
of fair play.
Yeah, just because one of the players happened to wear an Everton shirt. No, that
here's
does not happen.
And here's one which is going to become poignant over the next couple of days. David says, where are the pictures of the footballers who went out? Everyone has a camera in their pockets now, and yet nothing. Well, David, if
that's
you remember...
a very good point,
it is, except that was the point that you made about the Wayne Rooney story 2 days ago.
I did.
And then they held the picture back.
Yeah.
That was the one that was the killer picture. So I wouldn't be surprised if tomorrow's papers
I think that's,
have actually those pictures.
I think that's a fair bet.
Yes,
it's a fair bet.
Exactly right. And Dennis has posted this picture of Phil Jagielka and Wayne Rooney at the wedding.
Yes.
So I presume that would prove that Jagielka was there as well.
Yeah, but Jagielka looks perfectly sober in that
one,
doesn't
they both look perfectly sober.
Exactly.
Those
exactly,
were the pictures that went out in the first place.
That's right, yeah. No, I totally agree with you.
So it's all very interesting. Now, how about this one from William? Porky, on this day in 1980, 3 weeks before his death, John Lennon released his album Double Fantasy, November the 17th.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah, of course I do, yeah.
Do you have it?
No.
You don't have Double Fantasy?
I don't think I ever bought it, no.
Why not?
No, I don't know. I just didn't, because I didn't collectively go around buying all the Beatles LPs when they split up. I got all McCartney's LPs, actually, but with John Lennon's, I thought that some of the LPs were brilliant, and I liked some of the tracks, but some of them I thought were full of trash and like experimental music, which involved, trying to initiate Yoko Ono into the sort of writing and production side of music, and a lot of it came out as being not so good.
Right.
But I've got all Lennon's greatest hits.
Well, of course you've got the greatest hits. Now, David says this, this is about Jurgen Klinsmann, a German wouldn't have their heart in managing someone else's national team, particularly when they've already managed Germany.
Yeah.
Well, interesting point
No,
now.
that's absolutely right.
Well, I don't think it is, actually, because
I think it is.
when you talked, I was listening to a conversation on TalkSport the other day about Eddie Jones, right?
Yes.
The Australian manager of the England rugby team.
Yes.
Now, one of the things that was said about him was that the reason he's quite successful successful and has made England into such a sort of unstoppable force,
dominant force,
is that he does not feel the pressure that an English person would feel managing the national side.
Yeah.
So it swings around about. So Gareth Southgate might feel pressure because he's English.
Yes.
If you're not English, you don't feel the same pressure.
Yeah, but do you feel the same commitment to have to get a result, to win, and the sense of national pride that,
I think if you're
buoys you up in trying to do that?
If you're a professional, you can basically go and work for anybody and have the same result.
Yes,
surely.
well, yes and no. I mean, I still believe that, it's ever so much better to feel the same emotions of pride and resilience as your players. I think I honestly think you've got to be of the same thinking pattern.
Well, all I can say is that regardless of whoever seems to manage England, it seems to be a car crash massively. That seems to be the way that things are going.
You know, that time you got a little bit upset because I said that if you were paid on image rights, you'd have to pay Talk Sport.
I remember that, yeah.
You got rather upset.
I did get upset.
Yeah, and
it was because of the nasty way that you were sort of telling me the story.
And it was all down to Cristiano Ronaldo's new deal, I think, and how much of that. But anyway, I thought I'd just let you know.
Who?
Cristiano Ronaldo's new
I
deal.
think it's Christian Ronaldo.
No, Cristiano Ronaldo's deal. Just I'd let you know
the time, by the way.
that I found out today that last week David Beckham negotiated an £11 million deal on this year's image rights for himself.
Image rights with whom?
I mean, the ownership of.
Yeah.
And he's negotiated a new deal.
Well, I'm very happy for him.
11 million quid.
Yeah. Listen to the kind of...
11 million quid just for his face.
Yeah, but listen to the envy in your voice.
No, it's not envy.
There is.
No, it's admiration. It's admiration.
Are you sure?
11 million quid because his face is David Beckham's face.
Astonishing.
Yeah, it is.
This is Talk Sport.
Yeah. The Two Mics, simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
Hey! The sun goes down like a bad dream. You end up tight, gotta let off steam. They say they can break you again and again. If life is a radio, turn up to 10. These are crazy, 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 crazy nights.
This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mics. Porky Vision coming up in a little while. With reference to your statement about first class and planes,
yes.
Here's one from Villain who says, I'd take Porky sitting behind us, poor folk, just before we crash.
Yeah.
So the last thing he'd see would be my Aris heading his way.
Oh, how very funny is that?
There we are.
There's a famous joke, isn't there, about what's the last thing that goes through a bee's mind before he dies when he smacks into a windscreen?
I don't think you've told it right.
Yeah.
I think you're supposed to say, what's the last thing that goes through a bee before he dies?
No, it's what's the last thing that goes through a bee's mind before he dies when smacking a windscreen?
What is it?
Is Aris.
Is Aris? I don't get that.
Well, yeah. Well,
I thought it was the windscreen that was the punchline.
No. The windscreen, right, is what the bee hits at speed.
Yeah.
So what happens is when the bee hits the windscreen, it's his head that hits the windscreen, closely followed by his Aris going through his head. You see what I mean?
Does the bee actually have a head and an Aris? Then?
Yeah, they do. Yeah,
sure?
they do. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, but anyway, I don't know why we have to examine that joke. That is a funny joke.
Yeah. Well, I don't
What's
think
the last thing that goes through a bee's mind when he hits a windscreen?
No.
Is Aris. I mean,
you're supposed to be an animal.
joke.
You're supposed to be an animal lover, and you're supposed to be all about protecting bees. I mean, every week you tell me another story about how the death of the bee population is going to ruin.
I'm going to tell you about
future.
now. I'm going to tell you a few weeks before Christmas about the death of the reindeer population.
Reindeers.
Oh, I'm telling you, it is so tragic. Now everybody thinks that the world's getting warmer. So how come tens of thousands of reindeer are dying of starvation in the Arctic because the extremely cold weather means they can't forage for food?
Is that right?
It's true.
Well, to be honest, they changed it from global warming to climate change.
Yeah,
so
of course
climate
they do,
change actually covers climate and change in both directions. So it could be getting colder in some places and warmer in others.
It's getting colder in the Arctic, and there's a layer of ice there, and the poor little reindeer can't get through.
Really?
Now, it says more rain is falling in the Arctic in autumn. You know, this is due to, as you quite rightly say, climatic change situation.
Yes.
It's freezing into an ice crust, several centimetres thick. The reindeer, who for centuries have been able to root through the snow to reach the grass, cannot break through the ice. Now then, this figure's going to shock you. Sit down.
OK, I am sitting down.
More than 60,000 reindeer have died on the Yamal Peninsula in Siberia since...
how many?
60,000.
Out of how many?
Well, that's a lot, 60,000.
Well, it is. It depends on how many there are there, though.
Well, it wouldn't matter if it was 6 million. 60,000 dead reindeer is a lot of dead reindeer.
If there's a billion of them, 60,000 is a drop in the ocean.
Well, have you ever seen 60,000 reindeers dead?
Not recently. No,
exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's a lot. Anyway, so
it's not enough to fill Wembley Stadium.
More than 60... Well, reindeer don't actually, occupy places like that, you idiot.
No.
Now then, more than 60,000 reindeer died on the Yamal Peninsula in Siberia since November 2013, okay?
2013?
Yeah.
That's 3 years ago.
No,
that's
actually...
only 20,000 a year.
No. That all happened at one time in November 2013.
Oh, what? So that was a one-off incident?
No, it's been happening every November since.
So you're actually saying 180,000?
I'm saying 180,000.
Well, you're just making it up as you go along now.
No, I'm not.
Well, how many of them are there?
What?
How many of them are left?
Hundreds of thousands are there, but I mean, a big percentage of them are dying.
Yeah.
No, it's not 100,000. It's only it's only about 100,000. 60,000 out of 100,000 have died.
100,000 have died.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now then, what happens is the research, right, which I found out here, is linked, of course, to the loss of ice in the Barents and Kara Seas in the Arctic. Okay.
Right. I'm still not clear on how many of them have died.
I've told you 60,000 have died. How many times do I have to repeat that figure?
Well, you said that was in 2013.
No, it wasn't.
You did. You said it was in 2013.
Well, it did happen in 2013, but it's happened again since.
Right.
Okay?
Well, it's not very clear, this story.
Just listen. Now, it's all to do with the fact that there's been a lot of autumn rain and loss of ice in the Barents and Kara Seas, which are in the Arctic.
I thought you said it was because the ground was frozen, they couldn't get any food.
That is exactly right, but that's all relevant to the seas. The growth of open water is allowing more moisture to enter the atmosphere and to be transported to land, okay?
Really?
This is what's happening.
Right.
Now, the ice crusts have a long-term and serious effect on the Yamal Nenets tribe, right?
What?
The Yamal Nenets tribe.
Who are they?
These are wandering, nomadic-type people.
Oh, right.
There's 6,000 of them.
6,000?
Yeah.
Not very many.
And guess what their job is?
I don't know, killing reindeer.
No, all 6,000 of them are reindeer shepherds. What's your problem?
Well, you can't call them shepherds, can you?
Well, they're nomadic. What they are, they're reindeer herders.
Reindeer herders?
Yeah, reindeer herders. That's their job. They have to herd reindeers,
Apparently there's over 700,000 reindeer in this neck of the woods.
What?
700,000 of them.
Yeah, but that's over a vast area. I'm talking about in one particular place.
Yeah.
I'm talking about in the Yamal Peninsula in Siberia.
Yeah, that's where there's 700,000 of them.
No, there isn't.
Yeah, there is.
There isn't.
They're talking about culling them.
No, you idiot. They're dying. Anyway, listen.
Yeah, they're dying because they've been culled.
Listen, all these... now, these 6,000 nomadic reindeer shepherds, right, the herders...
Yes.
They're all pretty fed up with all these reindeer dying because they've got no reindeer to herd.
Well, they've only got 640,000 left.
So guess what they've done?
What have they done?
They've all turned to knocking holes in the ice and going fishing.
Hang on, you just told me it was because of the increasing water and the actual,
yes.
The melting of the ice.
It is. Well,
why don't they just move away from where the ice is?
Well, because they're not very good fishermen. This is the problem. They have to fish off land because they're actually reindeer herders.
Have they got rods?
Yes, that's what they've got. They cut holes in the ice and they fish for seals.
Seals?
Sorry, what's wrong with that?
Tried to pull a seal through a hole in the ice.
Well, it's a big hole. I mean, it's not it's not like the size of a bucket. It's the size of a barrel.
The size of a barrel?
Yeah, they make a hole the size of a barrel in the ice.
That sounds a bit dangerous.
Anyway, listen, expert Mark Marcius.
Mark Marcius?
Yeah. Actually, sorry.
Claudius?
No, sorry. His name is Mark Marcius Fowria.
Funnily enough, talking about Mark Marcius, you know the New Kids on the Block are reforming?
No.
Like with Marky Mark and all that?
I couldn't care less.
You couldn't care less?
No. Can I just finish this, please?
Yeah,
He says, the expert says, understanding the relationship between retreating sea ice and the Arctic animal and plant life is essential if we
So the ice is retreating?
No.
You just said it was.
No, I didn't. No. I said there's more open sea. Is essential if we are to predict how ecosystems will respond to rapid environmental change, okay?
So
it's bad news for the reindeer. That's all you need to know.
Well, are you telling me that Santa is going to be short of reindeer this year? Is that what you're telling me?
No, because that's a mythical thing, isn't it?
No!
What I'm saying is...
No, it's not.
Look, all these reindeer are dying, like...
You can't say it's a mythical thing.
What?
You're getting close to Christmas. There are children listening to this.
No, reindeer... Rudolph... Look, if you want me to talk about Rudolph, I will tell you again why Rudolph is the most shocking bullying story ever and should be banned.
Yeah, but it's not mythical, though.
Little kids shouldn't be allowed to sing Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Yeah, but it's not mythical.
Well, it is, because reindeer don't fly around in the air pulling Santa's...
Well, they do on Christmas Eve.
Well, OK, if our youngsters are listening, yes, they do. Yeah,
it's tracked by NASA.
All right, listen, talk about NASA.
I've eaten reindeer, by the way.
Yeah, I know. I don't want to get into that, honestly. It's terrible. Listen, talking about NASA, because we were talking about something earlier, what about this new fast aeroplane? Is it going to work?
Well, this is Richard Branson's idea, right?
Well, he's part of the consortium who are trying to get it going.
It's a sort of a newer, smaller version of Concorde.
Well, I'm not sure I can work. I went on the Concorde, and there was 100 people on the Concorde, and they were 4 across, 25 rows, OK?
That sounds like a crossword clue.
No, it's 25 rows back, 2 on each side. Now, this new one is a smaller plane with only 40 passengers.
Right.
Everybody gets a window seat. So it's 20 it's 20 rows, one on either side.
Oh, so there's just one...
Yeah.
Well, I've been on planes like that before.
That's right.
It's very small planes.
But they're like Gulfstreams and things like that. Not a liner, an airliner, but this is what it is. But anyway...
So you can't sit next to anyone, effectively?
No, you can't. No. And it would, it'd be a bit like sitting on one of those little single-seater type tables on a first-class train up to Liverpool or something like that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
There's nothing wrong with it, but it's a bit isolationist.
Well, you'd like it because you like to sit...
I wouldn't mind.
When you're on a train, you prefer to sit on your own without anyone next to you.
Yeah, I do, actually, yeah. But...
how much are they going to charge for this plane?
Well, this is the point. Obviously, you're going to have to charge an awful lot of money because this plane goes at twice the speed of sound, right?
Right.
So it probably burns up an awful lot of juice,
So
I would
Mach
imagine.
2.
It will be capable of flying at 1,451 miles an hour, which is more than 100 miles an hour quicker than the Concorde used to, OK?
OK. So does that mean it would get from London to New York in, about 2.5 hours or something?
3.25, it says here.
OK.
Now, it says here the average flight time, London to New York, is about 7, is it? It was nearer 6.
Yeah, when coming back, it's usually nearer 6 or 5 sometimes because the prevailing wind is from west to east.
I got back once in 5.25 hours. And when I said to the captain, because he was leaving the plane at the same time as me, he said, just prevailing winds. Yeah. He said, we sometimes do it.
Well, sometimes on that, say the overnight flight.
Yes, that's right.
You're actually, by the time you've had a drink and maybe something to eat, there's not much time to get much of a sleep.
No, that's right. I totally agree. But anyway, it's the other benefits of it are that the Concorde only really flew transatlantically. But the big route that this might improve enormously is Sydney to LA.
Yes.
Currently 15 hours. This plane, because of the curvature of the Earth, would take only 6.25.
So it would go over the top, I suppose.
Yeah.
But hang on, would it have enough fuel, though, to go that far?
Yes, it would, yeah.
Would it?
Yeah, it would, yeah.
It must have a very, very efficient fuel system, then.
Yeah, well, I'm sure it must have. Tokyo to San Francisco, from 11 hours to 5.5. And as I said, London to New York and back, down from 7 to half of that, less than half of that, 3.25.
Right.
So that's pretty impressive stuff.
I mean, I've always said that surely there must now be a way of making plane travel faster. You've often lamented the fact that they never replaced Concorde.
Absolutely.
And it's always staggered me that they haven't really managed to get planes to take you from point A to point B quicker.
Yeah, I agree.
So I think there'll be enough people to pay money for it if it was affordable.
I totally agree. I think the problem is that whilst if you knew how to do it, you could just build the plane and put it in the air and people pay for it.
Yeah.
I suppose it must be the development costs of getting there, which must be billions of pounds. And so therefore that whichever company invested in it would have to borrow that money and then get it paid back through the passenger fares over the next 10 years or something.
Certainly, if it was affordable, I would have a go on it.
I would as well.
Because I like to get from A to B as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I would as well.
That's what I would say. Yeah. Now, anyway, coming up, we're going to talk to Matt Christensen, right, who is a former Sarnoff Research Fellow at the University of California. He's going to be telling you about poor sleepers.
Yeah, I like
that. Of which you are one.
Yes.
Because you have an increased risk of atrial fibrillation.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Which doesn't sound good.
No, I can understand that.
This is Talk Sport. We are the two mics. Now, obviously, there are certain people listening in certain parts of the world to this show who are awake in the middle of the night. There are many people listening to this show who are actually not listening in the middle of the night because it's the morning or it's the evening and all the rest of it. But insomnia is a problem for a lot of people. Poor sleeping habits are a problem for a lot of people. And apparently, according to the man we're just about to speak to, Matt Christensen, who is from the University of Michigan, a former Sarnoff Research Fellow at the University of California.
That's right.
Lack of sleep and poor sleeping habits could actually kill you.
Oh, yeah.
Could lead to atrial fibrillation.
Definitely.
Let's find out what he's talking about. Matt, very good morning to you. Welcome to the show.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Atrial fibrillation. Now, tell us exactly what that is.
Yeah. So that's a disorder people sometimes get where basically one of the chambers of your heart doesn't really beat at the way it's normally supposed to. So you kind of end up with this irregular rhythm, which is a problem because it's, it can help. It's kind of like one of the risk factors for people having stroke and kind of increases risk of death as well.
That's quite serious, isn't it?
Yeah, it is quite serious. Why is this then particularly relevant to people who have broken sleep patterns then, Matt?
Yeah, so the research that we were doing was really motivated by sort of a recent finding that a disease called obstructive sleep apnea. So when people, kind of have snoring, obstructive sleep apnea over time is known to be one of the factors that contributes to this atrial fibrillation.
Yes.
And so we were thinking, okay, that's cool, but also there's a lot of people who don't have sleep apnea but do have poor sleep, disrupted sleep, insomnia.
Yeah.
And so we were thinking, hey, this might be also involved in atrial fibrillation because it's also involved in other diseases. And so we wanted to sort of test that out. So we've got some evidence that might be the case.
Right. Now, Matt, you presented these findings of your study to the American Heart Association scientific sessions recently. I mean, how would you define poor sleeping? I know it sounds like a stupid question, but I mean, a lot of people listening to this will wonder whether if they wake up every hour or so, that's poor sleeping. If they sleep only 3 hours at a time, I mean, what is it that's poor sleeping?
Yeah, so I should start off by saying sleep is really hard to measure. And the studies, first of all, that we were doing were observational. So we're not talking about any kind of causation here. All of this work is more just really hypothesis generating. So, we found a signal, but we've got more work to do. But to get to the poor sleep part, we had data from people both answering surveys and on a certain about a little over 1,000 people who had at-home polysomnograms. So it's like a sleep study. They hook you up for one night, and you get like a more objective measure of sleep. And so what we found was that particularly sleep disruption, so that is like waking up in the middle of the night, not so much the sleep duration, but actually waking up in the middle of the night was associated with a higher risk of atrial fibrillation.
Okay.
And then subsequently, less REM sleep, so that's the type of sleep you have when you're dreaming, is also associated with AFib. So we kind of think, we are speculating here, I should say, but that people, for whatever reason, we can't answer why. If you're having disrupted sleep, you're probably having less REM sleep too, and for some reason, that might be leading to atrial fibrillation.
Now, this is all very interesting stuff, Matt. I suffer from a condition called dilated cardiomyopathy, okay? Which I'm sure you're well aware of. Now, I get very broken sleep in the sense that I can't sleep for more than 2.5 or 3 hours without waking up. I just do. It's something I've had to live with. But the only solution, and this is where insomnia is such a difficult thing to treat, the only solution would be to start taking sleeping tablets. Now, once you start taking sleeping tablets, in my view, you become dependent on them, and that also is not going to help if you've got a dodgy heart, is it?
Yeah, well, I think, and I'm sorry to hear that that's a condition for you. I think one interesting
He seems to cope with it quite well, Matt. I wouldn't worry too much about it.
Okay, that's good. In our study, we were able to control for a lot of diseases. And certainly poor sleep is something that if you have heart disease, that's going to be a result. And so that could be something that's going on. Maybe it's people who have some other kind of underlying disorder, get poor sleep, and this other disorder also puts them at risk for AFib. And to your point about, I think what we're really excited about this kind of study motivates is if we were to think, okay, we think there's a signal between sleep and AFib.
Yes.
If we help people sleep better, might that decrease their risk of AFib? And so that's kind of like the follow-up study to this, or at least one particular follow-up that we're interested in.
Okay. And what about, I mean, a lot of people listening to this show in this country who are either working at night, they might be driving a taxi or driving a truck or working just in an office or in a factory. I mean, generally speaking, it's believed, I think, that if you sleep during the day, because you work at night, you tend to have worse levels of deep sleep, don't you? So, I mean, does that mean people who are night workers would be more likely to suffer from this atrial fibrillation?
That's also a really interesting question, and certainly in the people that were in our populations that we were studying, there's no doubt there was at least some people who were working at night and such like that, and so I think to the degree that's related to having a disrupted sleep or poor sleep, that's probably true. I don't have any great data on that because, unfortunately, all these studies don't ask people, we don't have great information on when is it that they're sleeping. And that kind of gets to the point that this is something that we do every single day, and there's a high variability. But you've kind of, when you're doing a study, you're kind of taking one point in time. That said, I don't want people to get worried. I mean, this is very early work. It certainly is a lot of other things we need to hash out. But that's another component. And certainly thinking about, how does your circadian rhythms interact with this as well as something of interest.
Yeah, well, I mean, also...
circadian rhythms, you don't hear that often on this show.
No, you don't. But there's an effect on the autonomic nervous system, isn't there, Matt?
What?
The autonomic nervous system.
Autonomic?
Yeah, which affects other organs in your body. It's almost like sort of multiple organ failure, isn't it? One organ looking for help from another.
Yeah, no, you're right. So the autonomic, or as I like to say, automatic nervous system.
Automatic, yeah. System. I thought that was a word. I thought that was a word I hadn't heard.
No, it's autonomic.
Yeah, you're not really in control of it, and it controls your heart rate,
yes, exactly,
and your breathing rate, and makes your guts go and everything.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we've speculated that that's potentially one way that's going on. In particular, we're finding that less REM sleep was associated with AFib. Right. REM sleep is associated with higher sympathetic, which is one part of your autonomic system drive, and lower parasympathetic tone.
Yes.
So the sympathetic is kind of the fight and flight kind of thing. So that's one possible mechanism where changes in your autonomic system are affecting your heart. But again, we don't really have data from our studies to support that theory, but it's something that is at least biologically plausible.
Yeah. Well, it's a fascinating study, Matt.
Certainly
Thank you very much for explaining it to us. I'm a bit disturbed about the way that you're talking over, Matt, but we're out of time, Matt.
No, I'm not over at all agreeing with everything you said. You've got to remember, I've got a very serious heart condition, so it's in my interest to keep up to date with these sort of studies. However, I have to say the conclusion to this is that not having much sleep is not good for you.
No.
Which I thought was a pretty obvious
Well, I've been telling
conclusion.
you that for ages. I mean, Ian, for example, is asking the question, has Porky really not slept since Friday?
Yeah.
Which is true, isn't it?
Well, I haven't slept much since Friday.
No.
I've been on secret missions during the day, and I've been here at night, propping you up on this show.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
How about this from Ozzy Craig? He says, you guys are keeping me company in my epic car journey from Wodonga to Adelaide, where I'm meeting up with fellow Rillbillies.
Wodonga. Yeah.
I presume Rillbillies are, I don't know, Aussie rules football fans or
I
something?
suppose so, something like that.
We'll find out. Send us another one for Aussie.
Good people,
and we'll find out. Also, here's one from Nam, who says, that pointless story told by Porky was harder to follow than the Canterbury Tales.
What pointless story?
What about the reindeer?
Oh, do you mean? It's a very serious story.
Rubbish.
60,000 reindeer are dying. You've got to have some sort of a feeling towards that, some sort of empathy for these beautiful creatures. Shame on you.
We'll come up with the actual truth of what that story was about very shortly. This is Talk Sport.
The Two Mics, simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
Now, I've got a few more tweets here about the reindeer story.
Well,
yours,
people are concerned, unlike you.
Peter says, Porky, why is there more open water? It's warmer. And then he's done something very clever, which is spelled P-E-L-A-N-Q-U-E. Palanque.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
He's trying to be funny, is he?
Yeah, he is, yeah.
Trying to be sophisticatedly funny.
Pecky says this.
Trying to be intelligentsia funny, are you?
The only people...
Go and take your intelligentsia funny, pal, and stick it in your pipe and smoke it.
The only reindeer people care about are Santa's reindeers. Please tell us they are not on the unpronounceable peninsula.
Well, we don't know about that until closer to Christmas Eve.
Porky is off his nut, says Matt. James says, what's he on about now? Shocking from Porky on reindeers. First it was 60,000, then 180,000, and then 600.
No, they're cumulative numbers. Don't worry about
Is that right? And Jacob says, nomadic reindeer shepherds fishing for seals. I'm in tears.
Well, you shouldn't be. You should be in tears for the 60,000 dead reindeer that you'll never see again.
And Ross says, Porky's ruining Christmas for all the kids listening. Hashtag Juicehead.
No, you don't want any kids listening at this time of night. Their parents can explain to them.
It's a family show.
Rudolph's mates, are all dying of starvation, and yet, MG on the radio doesn't seem to have much sympathy for the situation at all.
Matt says, I'm so glad Porky didn't mess up multiple organ failure.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't mess that up because it's something I'm very keen on. Listen, talking about multiple organ failure, right?
Yeah.
I'm a bit worried.
What do you mean talking about multiple organ failure?
Yeah, well, we were, weren't we? I'm a little bit worried about what I see as multiple government failure when it comes to property investment.
Are you?
And it's worrying me enormously.
What, you mean because your slum landlord portfolio is somehow under threat?
No, I have an interest in the greater health of the British economy.
Is that right?
Nothing selfish about it at all.
Really?
Now, I'm looking at the Daily Telegraph, a very renowned organ, as you know.
Certainly is an organ.
And
a very right-wing organ.
Well, whatever. I mean, it still publishes stories. It still publishes stories.
It's a right-wing organ, isn't it?
Well, it has a particular point of view on things, yeah?
A right-wing one.
Now, it says here, new rules to squeeze buy-to-let investors. This is a goddamn disgrace.
Excellent, great news.
Very
happy about this.
Well, you would be, being a non-property owner.
Well, I don't think that it's right that buy-to-let greedy landlords should be able to buy up all of the available property in any given part of the country.
See, that's just the politics of envy.
No, it's not the politics of envy.
Envy and malice.
They artificially push up the price of property so that ordinary people cannot afford to rent or buy in that area.
Where am I supposed to invest my money to get a decent return when interest rates are zero? Hey,
well,
where?
Why don't you invest it in a company, or why don't you invest it in a I don't know, gold or some other?
You invest in property
metal.
Because that helps the country.
No, it doesn't help the country.
Because I'm making property available for people to live in.
No, you're concerned merely with profit, right?
Not at all.
Making money out of your investment.
Not
right?
at all. I have a social responsibility. If I see a block of flats going up nearby, I usually go and buy one.
Yeah, but
then I make that available.
Yeah, but you make it available to people who will pay the highest price for it, like Egyptian doctors, for example.
I make it available to the greater populace. I provide places to live.
How many ordinary families do you rent property to?
I am like a one-man charity, me.
How many ordinary families do you rent property to?
Families?
I would bet you don't rent to anyone.
Some.
No, I bet that's wrong.
No, some young...
No, you don't.
No, there's one young couple with a baby, honestly.
Really?
There is, yeah. Now, listen, this is what it says.
Out of how many?
What?
Out of how many?
We're not talking about me. We're talking about the greater economy problem.
Right.
Now, it says property investors will face tough new mortgage affordability tests.
Good.
From next year, which will herald the beginning of the end of the middle-class buy-to-let dream, experts warned last night. I mean, this is a damn disgrace.
But see, there is no buy-to-let dream, right? If you want to buy a place to live in, that's fine. If you want to buy a second place to live in, that's also fine.
Yeah.
But buying to let is a shocking way to exploit people who need a home to live in.
I provide
and a
homes
roof
for
over their
people. I'm like another branch of the social services.
Oh,
mate.
really?
Yeah.
So you don't make any money out of it?
That's irrelevant. You can't do things without profit, otherwise there's no incentive to do them.
What about affordable housing?
It is affordable housing that I provide.
It's affordable if you're an Egyptian doctor.
No, it's affordable if you can afford it. Philip Hammond, the Chancellor...
That's brilliant.
Well, I'm sorry, but that's
brilliant.
Well, that's the case.
Actually, you've actually now renamed affordable housing.
No.
Because people talk about it all the time.
No.
They don't want to call it like housing association housing. They don't want to call it council housing. They call it affordable housing.
Well, a lot of people can afford it.
But you've now actually renamed it. That's brilliant.
No, Philip Hammond, the Chancellor, yesterday announced additional rules on buy-to-let, which will result in ordinary investors being able to borrow far less towards their purchase.
By the way, I'm sorry, I can't...
So how am I supposed to provide housing for the,
Well, you've got enough...
You're
making enough money, and you do not rent to the unfortunates.
I'm not even worried about myself. I'm worried about contributing to the housing stock in this country.
By the way, I still can't accept the fact that Philip Hammond's a Chancellor.
No, I can't either, really. Not if he's doing all this.
He's a bit of a plank, isn't he?
Mr Hammond indicated he was concerned about financial stability after a boom in residential property investment as savers desperately try to find profitable places to put their money.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah, but, I mean, why do they want to have to make profit off the backs of people who just need a place to live?
But
That's
look
my
at this.
point.
This is where I'm being harassed and violated. Many have turned to buy-to-let to fund retirement income after being effectively barred from putting more money into their pensions, right? But you've got to understand, ministers have recently targeted buy-to-let properties with aggressive new taxes, including high rates of stamp duty and the removal of tax relief on mortgage interest. Now, even you...
Hang on. Who's stopping you putting more money into your pension?
Even you.
No, who's stopping you putting more money into your pension?
We're not talking about pensions, we're talking about property.
No, you said that people are being stopped from putting more money into their pension.
Yeah, even you said the other day to me, you said, oh, look, the government are reviewing the amount of stamp duty they're now charging on individual properties.
Yes.
And even you said it was preposterous that it's gone up from £2,500 to £7,500.
No, I didn't. I said you'd be interested in that story because it affects you personally.
It does.
Because you're a buy-to-let slum landlord.
I'm not a slum
landlord
at all.
Doesn't make any odds to me what the stamp duty is. I mean, I haven't got any property.
By putting that amount of stamp duty on property, all the government are doing is making me have to charge my tenants more money. And the affordable housing becomes a bit less affordable.
Why do you have to pay? Why do you have to put the rents up if you're not exchanging property? Because the only reason you pay stamp duty is if you're buying and selling it.
But if I bought one in the first place and I've had to pay an extra £7,500, then I have to get that back from somewhere.
No, but you don't have
to. I get it back from my tenant. They've got to pay because otherwise I'd be suffering.
No, incorrect. You only pay the extra £7,500 if you're buying a new property.
Well,
you don't have to pay an extra £7,500 if you're not buying one.
But I might be buying one soon, so I have to make provisions for that.
The people that live in one that you've already bought.
But I mean, it means property becomes more expensive if you put more taxes on it.
See, you've just explained exactly why this so-called let's pass it all down to the renter doesn't have to happen.
Look, you put tax on anything across the economy, it becomes more expensive. You put tax on petrol,
because people like you will not absorb the tax. You get greedy.
You put tax on profit, then you've got to earn more, and you put tax on property, you've got to charge more rent. It's as simple as that.
You don't, though.
It's as simple as that.
That's my point.
No, you don't understand. You don't understand the economics of the property market.
I don't understand.
I think I do.
Who are so greedy that they have to continue to buy one flat after another to rent it out to make more and more profit.
I'm a great landlord.
Not necessary.
Only a couple of months ago, I had one of my properties redecorated.
Did you?
Yeah, for the benefit of the tenant.
Who was the tenant?
What?
Who was the tenant?
Well, it's a new tenant coming in. Old tenant had gone out.
So you got rid of some old duffer who didn't want to pay very much?
No, it wasn't an old duffer. It was...
Who was it?
It was a young couple, actually.
A young couple?
Yeah.
So you hoisted them out?
No, they were moving on, so I decided I would have it refurbished.
And did you increase the rent?
Of course.
So you've increased the rent?
Well, I had to.
Why?
To pay for the refurbishment of the property.
What? And so how much was the refurbishment?
A couple of grand.
Couple of grand?
Yes.
And how much have you increased the rent by?
Enough to cover it.
So for how long?
Oh, forever.
Forever?
Yes, so in perpetuity.
So you'll actually get much more back than you spent?
Well, it's a better property now. It's been refurbished, so you pay more, don't you?
What sort of things have you done to refurbish it? Liquor paint?
Yeah, we painted a few walls and ceilings.
New carpets?
No, walls you do with the carpenters. You get some bloke in with this big steam machine, and do you know what they do these days? By the way,
what?
Is
it furnished? By the way, this place?
Yes, furnished. Yeah.
Is it furnished so that you can have more control over who can live there and how quickly you can get them out?
No, it's
because when you have a furnished place, you have less security, don't you?
Yes, of course you do. I don't like letting unfurnished property.
What sort of furnishings do you have in this place?
Oh, good high quality stuff.
Like what?
Well, like leather couches and that kind of stuff. Yeah, always leather couches because they don't wear. You see, they don't wear as badly as couches made out of material.
Television?
Oh, yeah. Well, sometimes if they want one, I will provide one.
Is there one in this place?
That's an extra cost. Yes, there is actually. Yeah.
What do you mean you provide one?
Well, I sort one out. Don't worry.
Well, how much do you charge me for that?
Well, it's irrelevant, isn't
it?
No,
people are interested in this kind of stuff. It's the nitty-gritty of your property empire. It's fascinating.
What?
It's fascinating.
No. And you get the carpets done about every couple of years, you know, and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
It's not a problem. But anyway, look, that's all irrelevant. The point is, I am being unfairly victimised because because
I don't think you are.
I am. Because I provide part of the housing stock in this country. Now the government are going after me. So do you know what my answer to that is?
What is it?
Okay, I tell you what. All us, property investors will just pull out a property investment, and then you, the government, you're going to try and provide housing for the millions of people who would be homeless without investors like me.
Well, I don't think you're housing.
I contribute towards alleviating the homeless problem.
You're not housing anyone that would otherwise be homeless. because they couldn't afford to live in your properties because you charge too much money.
No, that's not true.
And
that's
by the way,
true.
the government are apparently thinking of building more prefab housing. Have you seen that story?
I've
week.
seen that, but that's
you know,
just
like sort of trailer park
stuff.
type. No, they're going to build like more trailer parks for people to live in.
I think it's honestly very speculative stuff. I really do, honestly.
Yeah. Matt says this, I listen to you two live because I don't sleep that well, but stories like Porky's reindeer one come close to sending me to sleep.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, well, if you don't find that interesting, if you haven't got a heart for 60,000 poor dead reindeer, then if I were you, mate, I would try and sleep, but you won't because you clearly haven't got a conscience.
Alessandro says, why don't you invest your money on saving the reindeers, Porky? And Adrian says, why doesn't Porky invest in a reindeer sanctuary?
Well,
because you love the animals so much.
I do love animals, and I do invest actually in a horse sanctuary. So that is the nearest equivalent in this country to a reindeer sanctuary. So you can. The answer to that one is I do.
And Def has sent a very nice picture, which he says is one of your flats in an area of Liverpool.
Oh, that's very nice, isn't it?
Where you're sort of helping to house lots and lots of people.
And just to explain to our millions of listeners, it's a picture of like thousands of people sleeping on the floor of some sort of community centre somewhere.
Alex says Porky proving he's a professional con man as well as a plank.
What?
It's a bit harsh, isn't it?
No, it's very harsh indeed. And very unfair as well. Just because I, invest in a social need, i.e. housing, doesn't make me a pariah.
Lord Rallo disagrees. Porky the slum landlord pokes his head out of the shadows again. # man of the people.
No, I don't think so.
I think that's entirely correct. Now, coming up in the next hour, we've got Porky Vision, which I'm not sure is going to be about The Missing. There was an episode of The Missing last night, I understand,
yes, there was,
which is the most recent one. I don't know if you saw that, but if you did, please don't give too much away. There's a lot of people are watching that. And there'll be lots of other television-type stuff coming up. This is TalkSport. Captain Jam Tart says on Twitter, if Porky's having trouble sleeping, he should go home and re-listen to his reindeer story. Even Rudolph himself would be confused.
Oh, really?
#plank.
Oh, yes, that's very nice. Thank you very much indeed. Yeah.
Now, I've got some news for you about your good friend Kim Jong-un over in Pyongyang.
Oh, Pyongyang.
Pyongyang, right? Apparently, in China, they've issued an edict, right?
Yeah.
No longer are you going to be able to refer to him on websites in China as Kim Fatty III, which is one thing that they use to poke fun at his size and ancestry, apparently. But they've also decided to try and block other various names for him, including Kim Fat and Jin Sang Pang.
Who's trying to block all these?
The Chinese.
Why?
Well, because apparently they say it's disrespectful to North Korea's great leader.
Yeah, well, hang on. China is just as much a threat to the nuttiness of, what's his name?
Kim Jong-un.
Kim Jong-un as the rest of the world.
Well, they are.
Why are they getting sympathetic to the fact that a madman is running a country that's desperate to acquire nuclear capability?
Yeah, well, I think that's one of the reasons.
Which is the world's biggest irritant.
Well, that's one of the reasons.
Beyond me.
Well, that's one of the reasons, because their relations have been strained recently because of Pyongyang's nuclear weapons program.
Pyongyang.
So I think they're a bit worried that, if they wind him up too much, he might fire a couple of them towards China.
No, I'm sorry. China's going to be the most powerful country in the world in about 15 years' time. Why don't they turn around and say, now, listen here, fatso,
or Kim Fatty III.
Yeah, Kim Fatty III. You just start behaving yourself back in Pyongyang. Otherwise, we will blow Pyongyang out of the water, okay?
According to
there won't be a Pyongyang anymore. There'll just be a pile of rubble.
According to Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Geng Shuang, who says the Chinese government stays committed to building a healthy and civilised environment of opinions. However, we disapprove of any country with insulting and mocking remarks.
Yeah, right, okay, yeah.
So don't call him Kim Fat or Kim Fatty III.
They've issued sort of insulting views on American presidents for years, if not decades. The Chinese, yeah, of course they have, yeah. Yeah, and particularly in the days of Mao Zedong. By the way, I've had a look at some more of the things that where are you? Where are you?
Yeah. Who are you?
Who are you?
It's not who. It's where. It's not where are you.
Yeah.
It's who are you?
Who are you? Who are you? In Holloway.
Who are you?
That's it. That's the one. Yeah. In addition to everything we've already told the audience, he said this: "I'm not a pair of bell bottoms. I'm not a high-waisted pair you had at school with a pocket so big you could get your books in them. I'm a retailored man all the time."
Tailored?
Retailored.
Retailored?
Yeah.
What do you mean retailored?
Well, like tailor as in, like, make a suit.
Yes. So
I am retailored all the time.
Every time he gets a new job, he gets a new suit.
He gets a new suit. Retailored.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who are you?
Who are you?
Now, listen, I've got a very, very strange story for you, which I want you to interpret in your own inimitable way. Have you seen this story about the missing World War II ships? Royal Navy World War II ships.
No, go
basically.
on.
Now, according to the Ministry of Defence, apparently historic wartime wrecks, 3 British warships sunk by the Japanese Navy, have disappeared because they think they may have been supposedly scavenged for the the raw
Where were
materials.
these wrecks?
They were off the sea. They were in the seabed off of Indonesia.
Yes.
Right, and apparently there were large holes where these ships were.
Yes.
When they went to go and sort of visit them, basically,
Yes.
and the ships have all gone.
Sorry.
So somebody has actually gone to the bottom of the sea and removed them without anybody noticing.
So these ships were sunk
Yeah.
during the war?
They were during World War II, yeah.
World War II, and so they're war graves, were they?
Well, they would be war graves,
Yes,
yeah.
that's right. And who was visiting these ships, like, if they were in the depths of the sea?
Well, it's the Ministry of Defence who were keeping tabs on them. The wrecks of HMS Exeter, which was a heavy cruiser.
Exeter was an amazing ship.
HMS Encounter, which was a destroyer.
Yes.
Right? And HMS Electra was the other one, which has apparently been plundered.
Yes.
All 3 were sunk over 2 days of clashes with the Japanese Navy from February 27th to March the 1st, 1942.
Yes, that's right.
And
Exeter in particular was a very, very famous battle.
Yeah. So basically, what they're saying is it's been, the Ministry of Defence is saying it's becoming ever more clear that this attitude is not acceptable to the wider public, not least the veterans and their families. So it's pretty shocking, isn't it?
Well, it could be a number of things. I mean, yes, in that part of the world, scrap dealers are very active and will go to great lengths, actually, to acquire the sort of metal that you find obviously on a sunken ship. But the other thing is that with, I don't know if it's climate change or something like that, but the tidal pull at depth in oceans is so enormous it can shift things, and the ship could have been shifted. It could have moved somewhere else.
No, I think they're pretty sure that they've been stolen. Basically.
Well, you can't steal a whole ship. If you did, you'd have to spend weeks with an oxyacetylene cutter below the surface of the sea.
Well, that's what seems extraordinary, isn't it?
Cutting the ship up to take it away, because you couldn't take it away wholesale, obviously.
Yeah, but what they're saying is they've done a 3D map of the sea floor off the coast of Java.
Yes.
And it shows that the wreck of the destroyer HMS Electra has been taken, but a large section of it still remains.
Yeah.
So it hasn't been washed away.
So bits of it...
They've basically been nicking it.
Well, or it could have been buried under sand or whatever. You know, one end of it could have been just covered by a tidal movement which has shifted the seabed.
Now, apparently the same study is also believed to have revealed the disappearance of 3 Dutch naval wrecks and an American submarine.
Really?
So there must be big money in scrap metal.
All sounds a bit odd to me, but
Well, I feel a porky campaign coming.
Well, yeah, I would if I had enough evidence, but, you know, the myth of Davy Jones's locker, which is what we call it.
What is the myth of Davy Jones's locker?
Well, the myth of Davy Jones's locker is that it, down there is a whole new world, and there are people who live there, and they might be the ones who've removed the boats and all that kind of stuff. You know, the water babies, the Davy Jones locker, the Neptune, the Atlantis myth, and all that kind of stuff. You know,
Atlantis.
There are a lot of people believe that is genuinely a new and completely different world beneath the sea.
Well, there's loads of things that we don't know about that are beneath the sea. I mean, the Mariana Trench, for example, which is as deep as
nobody's ever been down to the bottom of it.
Well, they think is down there.
What?
They think that there are massive creatures down there because the pressure is so great.
That's right.
That they think there are giant sort of sea snails, which would be the size of this studio.
That's right.
They think there are sort of underwater beetles, which are the size of a Volkswagen.
Yes, there could be.
And that could be the case.
It could be the case. But
creatures from the deep.
Because the pressure upon a human being or even a vessel to go down into it would just crush it, and you'd have no chance whatsoever of getting out again. And similarly, whatever weird creatures live down there can't escape the vortex of pressure in which they live.
Vortex of doom.
Yes, that's right. Otherwise, they would fall apart as well. So we're happily kept away from each other, which is a good thing.
Yes, indeed.
I remember a friend of mine. She pulled off a bit of a coup.
A girlfriend?
No, it was a colleague who just happened to be female.
Oh, yeah.
And she spent like 18 months trying to organise a miniature submarine to get down.
A miniature submarine?
Yeah, a miniature submarine.
Well, where was this you were working? The FA?
No. And this was a miniature submarine to get down to the wreck of the Titanic.
Yes.
And she spent about 18 months doing it. Eventually,
was she a journo, this woman?
She was a journo. She worked for the Mail on Sunday.
Okay.
And got it sorted. And then, as the miniature submarine was lowered over the edge of the support ship, and she and this guy went down, and it just got darker and darker and darker until there was no light whatsoever. Yeah, but the headlights couldn't penetrate the dark because there was no natural light there. I mean, it didn't reflect off anything.
So it was just really murky.
It was just pitch black, literally.
But didn't James Cameron get involved in all that?
Well, I don't know.
The director of the Titanic movie. I think he actually financed, I think, a mission down to the Titanic.
That's right.
I'm pretty sure he did.
And eventually they got to the Titanic, but she said by that time, I mean, the miniature submarine they were in, which was no more than a bell, really. Yeah. It was a circular thing. Right. I mean, she said, any time I was waiting for it to implode. You could hear all the...
Did her ears pop and everything?
Yeah, all that. Well, he had to wear all sorts of special equipment, and not get the bends when he came back up and all that kind of stuff. But she said, you could actually hear the metal straining against each other, trying to pull itself apart. Right. And it was changing shape and all sorts of things.
Changing shape?
Yeah, it was changing shape. Because
it came up a different shape.
No, it didn't come up a different shape. But on the deeper it went, it seemed to go from being sort of orbital to elliptical and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, he said it was amazing.
Bizarre.
And then eventually it got down, and the reason you could see the Titanic was because previous missions had been able to leave light fixtures next to the wreck.
Oh, what? So it was illuminated.
Yeah, and that's how you found it. Yeah,
I don't believe that.
Oh well, I'm telling you.
Well, why didn't the Titanic break up then if it was under so much pressure?
Well, it did, didn't it?
No, but I mean, break up once it was on the seabed.
Well, the reason being is that there are outlets for that pressure outside of the boat, whereas an orbital chamber, which is going down, there is no release forward pressure inside. Right. You see what I mean?
Yeah, I get you.
Yeah. It wasn't. Okay. I mean, the Titanic wasn't enclosed, so to speak.
Right. So did she actually see the Titanic?
Saw the Titanic. Yeah.
How exciting!
Saw the bit at the front, the rail where. In the film, Kate Winslet would have stood at the front and,
with
Leonardo DiCaprio.
I watched it actually the other night.
Oh, did you?
It's still a good film to watch.
Yeah, I'm sure it is, yeah.
This is Talk Sport.
The Two Mics, simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
Exclusive motor racing prize on TalkSport with Renault Pro Plus. We're going behind the scenes at the headquarters of Renault Sport Formula One team next Sunday, the 27th of November, and you could be there too.
That's right. Now put yourself in pole position. Then you and a friend will visit the team's HQ in Oxfordshire to be put through your paces in racing challenges, and then watch the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Now, not only that, but we'll send you home with a great PS4 racing bundle. And there's also a breathtaking track day up for grabs.
Yes, the qualifying session for this unique competition will take place in the Weekend Sports Breakfast. So join Georgie Bingham and Tony Cascarino from 7 o'clock this Saturday and Sunday to find out how you can win. It's all thanks to Renault Pro Plus, official logistics partner of Renault Sport Formula One. The Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, of course, being the final one of the season.
Indeed, it will decide who the world champ is.
Yes, and we will be on, of course, after the Sports Breakfast of the weekend, on the warm-up on Saturday, right?
On Saturday we definitely will, but that's before the race. The race is on Sunday.
11 till 2, yes, I know that, yeah, but there'll be qualifying, won't there? So we might have a bit of that.
Qualifying is absolutely right. We can't do Sunday this week, unfortunately, due to prior commitments.
Prior commitments, yes.
And I'm delighted to say that I've been released from my secret mission tomorrow, just one day.
All right, well, you better not say anything about that.
Got to get back into the secret mission again on Friday.
Yes.
Now, what is this load of Bolloxios you're telling me about Lambrusco, eh?
Well, apparently, according to
I've never drunk Lambrusco, despite the fact
you must have had Lambrusco.
No, that hideous banking fellow used to work on the breakfast show. His name Henk Potts.
Henk Potts? What are you calling him hideous for?
Well,
hideous Henk?
Hideous Henk, yeah. Used to make all these allegations.
He used to be a big mate of yours, didn't he?
Oh...
Many moons ago?
No, not really. He thought
he used to hang around with you.
Yeah, he used to hang around. He thought he was, but he wasn't really.
No.
And he used to always accuse me.
He's a good guy to know during the ATP Championships at the O2, though.
What?
He's a good guy to know during the ATP Championships at the O2.
Oh,
the tennis.
what? Do Barclays sponsor it?
They do.
A couple of free tickets?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
So now you call him hideous, you won't be able to get any.
Yeah, well, you know.
I hope he doesn't get back to him.
But anyway, point of the story is, he always accused me, because Mr. Brazil was always going on about, champagne, bolly and all this kind of stuff. Yes, well, Mr. Parry just drinks Lambrusco. I've never drunk Lambrusco in my life. But anyway, it's on the comeback trail, is it?
Well, I must say that I never really drank it, but I have to say, I have had it because,
Yes.
there was a time, many moons ago before Prosecco was ever heard of, that people drank Lambrusco or sometimes brought it to parties with a view to, dumping it there because they would hope that they'd be able to drink something slightly better. But apparently, it is on the way back, right? I mean, things like Baby Sham, which you might remember you used to drink.
I remember Baby Sham.
Oh, did you ever drink that?
That was my first ever alcoholic drink. The first time I got intoxicated, I was about 12, and we were at a family wedding, the reception afterwards, and I liked the look of the Baby Sham bottle, thought it was like pop or something, and I drank a bottle of it, and I was definitely intoxicated.
Right.
In fact,
I've actually got a couple of vintage Baby Sham glasses.
Have you?
Which have got Baby Sham written on them.
That's great. And
which were given to me as a present.
That would be like a bowl-type champagne glass, yeah?
Yeah, like this sort of,
yeah.
like the sort of champagne cocktail-type glass.
Yeah, the bowl.
Yeah.
The bowl,
Yeah, but it's on a stem, but it's a sort of a wide-open glass at the top.
The bowl as opposed to the flute. That's what you mean, yes.
Well, how about this? Lambrusco has now come back, but it's in a much different form, because Lambrusco was always thought to be a little bit sweet, always white, and sort of bubbly, right? The new Lambrusco is either red or rosé normally. It's been sold by what you would call high-end supermarkets like Waitrose and Marks and Sparks.
Oh, really?
For £30 a bottle.
My God.
But it's selling really well.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's an Italian celebrity chef called Antonio Carluccio.
Yeah.
Which you might know. You might know of a place called Carluccio's. There's one at Heathrow Terminal 5.
Yes.
There's one in Kensington.
Yes.
There's one actually in Weymouth that I've been to.
Is there?
Yeah. Oh, sorry, no, Dorchester that I've been to.
I think
But
that's
it's a very high-end sort of Italian restaurant. Very
Really?
good. Actually, you'd have to say they sell really good white clam sauce. Anyway, all of his 100 restaurants are selling a red Lambrusco Vecchia Modena for £30. And last week it outsold Prosecco as the dominant sort of fizzy Italian wine. Isn't that surprising?
I must admit, I'm not aware of that resurgence
Well,
of
I'm not
Lambrusco.
either. I'm not either. So what I'm going to have to do...
And you wouldn't get me ever buying a bottle of Lambrusco
well,
ever.
what I might do is I'll find a pub that's got some, and next time we go to a pub that's got some, we'll have a bottle of it and see what you think.
Yeah, but I mean, to be honest, I've always associated Lambrusco with cheap trash, and I don't care what they've done to it to make it better, it wouldn't be for me.
Well, apparently they've also upped the alcohol content as well. So it now has 12 to 13% alcohol, which is quite strong for a wine.
Is that right?
Yeah. Do you know, for example, what the content alcohol-wise is of your regular Pinot Grigio tipple?
No.
It's probably about 11%.
Is it about 11?
So this is stronger, 12 to 13.
I had a beer last weekend, and it was...
What?
It was
Why do you say that as if that's the only one you've had?
Well, it is the only one I've had this week.
Well, you haven't had a beer since last weekend?
No, I have not. No, I've been on... I've been on...
Been on the Red Bull?
No, I've been on secret mission duty.
Yeah, but you haven't had a drink?
I haven't had a drink at all, no.
Blimey.
No.
No wonder you're being so nice to me.
But what I was going to say was, I had a pint of this beer in a country pub, and it's 4.8% proof.
That's pretty strong, isn't it?
It's very strong, and I didn't realise that the stronger the beer, is in alcohol, the more bitter it is. It was very bitter on the tongue.
I'm not sure if that's true.
Yeah, well, I
mean, you can have strong lagers which are not bitter.
Yes,
but they're just as strong as 4.8.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, here's a little thing for you. I've just been reading about 11 of the most annoying habits in the office.
Really?
Yes.
Yes.
I want you to tell me whether you are annoyed by these things.
Okay.
Or whether you've ever done them.
Sure.
Number one.
Yep.
And I know you're guilty of this, changing the thermostat.
Well, yeah, I do all the time because we can't get regular heat in studio, so you have to keep changing up and down.
Yeah, but you change it without a view to whether anybody else wants you to change it.
No, I always consult you.
Do you?
Yes.
Second, talking on a speakerphone.
That's a no-no for me. I won't engage in conversations with people on speakerphones. If I'm ringing somebody and I realise that at the other end they've put on their speakerphone, I'd just say, "Am I bothering you? Are you having your lunch? I'll call you back." Bang. There used to be a little guy here who used to sit round the corner, and he used to big himself up by talking on the speakerphone, so the whole office could hear him.
But why would you do that in an
I've
office?
no idea.
That is ridiculous.
Yeah.
All right. Number 3, too much cologne. I must admit, I've never come across that in Talk Sport. Somebody wearing too much cologne or a woman wearing too much perfume.
No, a woman can never wear too much perfume for me. And as for cologne on a bloke, I don't object to it at all. I use Polo spray.
Do you?
Yes, it's blue.
Polo spray?
Yes, it's blue and silver, and it's a very, very
It's
refreshing.
got the man on the horse.
Yeah, it says a guy on a horse
Yeah.
playing polo. You're
Yeah.
absolutely right. That's the
I know.
insignia. And I use it, but I use it sparingly.
But when
just
you
to-
say you use it sparingly, do you put it on your hands and rub it on your face?
No,
or
well,
spray
it's
it
a
straight on
spray.
your face?
No, it's a spray.
Well,
So
yeah, I know, but there are several ways of spraying it on.
Hang on, I'm just explaining.
All right.
So I lift it with my right hand, spray it into my left hand,
Right.
and then use my left hand
Okay.
to wash my beard in.
So you don't spray it directly
No,
onto the beard,
no,
is what I'm
no,
saying.
no.
Stealing lunch. Apparently, this is something that a lot of people worry about here at Talk Sport
Yeah.
because they'll have food that they keep here because they
Well-
work here every day. Somebody steals it from the fridge or somebody
Yeah, well,
uses the cereal.
I would never put anything in the communal fridge. I mean, I don't know how people can. You know, it's
well, because they work here on a regular
but
basis.
it's like living in some sort of homeless joint, isn't it?
Well,
where,
no.
you know,
If you like eating cereal, you bring a packet of cornflakes
Yeah.
in. You're not going to eat one
I-
bowl of cornflakes, take it home again, are you?
I gave up communal food banks, you know, when I was a student. So
Did you?
I would never do that. But one thing that did happen to me once was I was working in an organisation where the boss was, you know, a swaggering, bullying non-entity.
Oh, yeah.
And he came into my office one time to talk about something, and my secretary had just gone out and got me a sandwich, you know, and it was, and I'd unfolded it, so to speak. It was on the
Taking it out
the
of its
desk.
wrapping.
Yes,
or
that's
whatever.
right. Yeah, with a packet of crisps nearby. And he came in and said, "Oh, do you mind if I have a bit of that? You know, I'm starving." I mean, it's a filthy habit, you know.
What, you just ate your sandwich?
Well, he picked up a bit of it. It was cut into 4.
Yeah.
So he picked a quarter of it up, you know,
Yeah.
and then he opened my crisp and stuck his fingers in and, you know, had a few crisps.
Well, you told us yesterday you don't like sharing your food.
I don't share my food with anybody. So anyway, I just was completely nonplussed, you know, and he went rabbiting on about something that was nothing because he obviously didn't have anything better to do. Then he walked out. So
Did you eat the rest of the sandwich?
No, of course I threw it all away.
Well, if you only ate one quarter of it, what's
Well,
the
how
problem?
do I know that the disgusting pig hadn't gone to the loo and not washed his hands or something
Well,
like
yeah,
that?
but he hasn't touched the rest of it, has
I
he?
don't care. Don't care. No, I'm sorry. I can't stand people interfering with other people's
Okay.
food. In fact, I think it's even terribly rude to do things like people do because they're ignorant, you know, walking past somebody's eating, saying, "Oh, what you got there?"
Yeah.
Like it's got anything to do with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what happened here once. Somebody
Yep.
did this to my daughter when
Yes.
she was working here. She was drinking a bottle of water. This guy walks up to her
Yes.
and in a sort of slightly threatening way picks up the bottle of water and takes a drink out of it
Yeah.
and says, "Are you okay?" But then drinks the bottle of water and gives it back to her
Yeah. Well,
without asking.
what was that supposed to indicate?
Well, I don't know.
No.
But it was some kind of macho stuff.
Yeah.
She wasn't very keen.
No.
Didn't complain
Well,
to
you
me
wouldn't
about
touch it. You'd throw it away, though.
Well,
wouldn't
that's
you?
what she did.
Obviously.
Yeah, but what sort of person does that? I
No,
mean,
I
you wouldn't
don't-
walk
no
up to
idea.
somebody's desk and go, "Can I
No.
drink your water?"
No idea. No
and
idea.
just drink it.
You better run through the rest quickly.
Finally, being self-centred.
Well, there's nothing wrong with self-confidence. There's nothing wrong with looking after your own interests, but self-centred never works in an office. You've got to be part of a team, which I am.
All right, talking loudly. You do quite a bit of that.
I can't help talking loudly. People used
Why?
to complain on trains if I was on a mobile phone. You could hear me at the other end of the train. I don't know. It's just the way my voice resonance is.
Well, it annoys people.
Yeah, noise. Yeah, I hate people talking into mobile phones on trains.
Oh, yeah,
and
but you do it yourself.
I do it very rarely. I usually go into the corridor, to be honest.
Okay, what about people who always complain?
Well,
You do quite a bit of that as well.
I do a bit of complaining because I think in this modern world, you know, you can be taken advantage of and taken for granted. And if something's not right and I've paid for it, I complain, yeah.
Okay, and finally, time wasting. People who waste time.
Well, most of the world wastes time. I mean, on the secret mission I'm on at the moment, I'm associated with people who simply waste so much time that I'm amazed that the world can still work financially and economically because so many people are non-productive and time wasters. I reckon about 1% of the able-bodied, working, industrious population of this world is carrying the other 99%. That's what I reckon.
Okay. Pete says this, breaking news, polo spray sales plummet.
No, they'll go up now that people know.
I don't think so. This
I
is
do.
Talk Sport. Coming up next, though, it's Porky Vision.
As your TV reviewer, I can reveal
Yeah.
there are no plans for a new series.
Yeah, no, but wasn't there a previous series?
Oh, hang on, wait a minute. It says here there might be a new series. What's your problem?
That music can only signal one thing. It is, of course, that time of the week where Porky Vision kicks in. It is the best TV review this side of almost any part of the globe that you can mention, including that peninsula, which has become unpronounceable where all the reindeers are dying. What have you been watching? I know you've had limited time this week because of your secret mission.
I have.
But what have you been able to watch on the telly?
Well, I'll tell you what I watched in full, because I had one spare hour all week, and that was a new show about American airmen in this country, actually, well, in the UK, but in Northern Ireland, and it's called My Mother and Other Strangers, right?
Oh, yeah.
and it was the worst load of rubbish I've ever seen. And the reason why is it was so stereotypical. So what you've got is you've got this sleepy little Irish town, right?
Yes.
In I'm not sure which part of it. It's in Northern Ireland. It's near. It's very near to Loch Ney, which is right in the middle of Northern Ireland.
It's interesting. There's quite a lot of Northern Irish stuff on because the Fall was all about Northern
Ireland. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it was. Yeah. It is interesting. Maybe they've suddenly got some incentives for people to go and film there or something like that. Right. You know. But anyway. So the airmen arrived, and the worst thing about it is that the way they indicated, oh, look, there's an American air base growing up here, showed all these big planes flying in. Right. But honestly, it was hopeless. They were clearly animated onto the TV, you know what I mean? Because they would, like when you were a kid, you had model aeroplanes and all that. That's what they looked like. Right. They looked like somebody had thrown a model aeroplane across the set, you know what I mean?
Oh, so it didn't look authentic.
Oh, they're dreadful.
Do you think, is it something to do with a sort of BBC outpost that they have to give work to so they can
I think it might be.
Because that's what they do sometimes.
But it was obvious they just planted, with a computer, a scene of an aeroplane flying towards you. And it was not a real aeroplane. It looked terrible. Right. But anyway, the whole plot was just dreadful. Right. To start off with,
is it like a drama then? Or is it the documentary or what?
Mike, you could guess the plot. The plot is this. Sleepy little Irish town, American airmen arrive, steal all the girls, local boys get upset, beat up a few American airmen in the local pub. Fighting shoes. Young 16-year-old girl wants to run off with American airmen. Her dad gets the double-barreled shotgun out, goes after the airmen. Right. It was so stereotypically bad. It was unbelievable. Yeah. And the way the actors played the American airmen, the first time you saw them, guess what? They come round the country road in a Jeep.
Of course.
And there's three of them sitting in there. Yeah. And the guy in the back is chewing gum. Right. He's got dark glasses on.
Big cigar.
No, he hasn't got a cigar. He's got the dark
aviators.
Aviator glasses on. He's got a hat, pulled back on the back of his head with a peak on it. He's got a leather jacket.
Carrying some silk stockings in one hand?
No, not quite, but it was almost that. He's got a leather jacket on, right? And he swaggers around into the local pub, and starts eyeing up all the girls. And of course, the local guys are all portrayed as men with scarves and flat hats, literally. Yeah. Flat caps and scarves. Yeah. Suspicious looking, and, you don't want your sort here and all that kind of stuff. Meanwhile, you're absolutely right, the American airmen are going around dispensing all sorts of favours, presents and things. I don't think
but
they're
that's
any
the thing, the silk stockings were one of the things that they were supposedly
it's more like
known for.
I think it's more like tobacco and all this kind of stuff, And then, of course... there's one woman there who just happens to be English, so she feels a bit ostracised by the locals who are Irish. And she meets, one of the American US Air Force officers walking, near the beach, and she was walking. And, of course, her eyes sparkle and all this kind of stuff. They've got two little kids in it who are little rascals, but so, again, stereotypical, running round, with toy guns and climbing over the Jeeps, the American Jeeps, and the American soldiers being ever such nice guys and taking them for rides in Jeeps and all this kind of stuff.
And it's just meant to be some kind of ongoing series? Or
I don't know where it's going to go, because I'm not going to watch another episode of it. It's absolutely dreadful rubbish. And it was so stereotypical... It didn't make any sense. So, an airman who we find out is age 20, and goes and knocks on the door of a fairly respectable house. Uh-huh. And the Irish bloke answers the door and says, yes, can I help you? And he says, yes, sir. I have come here to ask you today, can I date your daughter? Right. Whose name is Emma.
Emma?
Yeah.
Really?
Emma, same name as your daughter. Yes. Yeah. And he says, I beg your pardon? He says, he beg your pardon. And he says, I want to date your daughter, sir. She's a fine-looking girl and my intentions are honourable.
Yeah, which of course they're not.
And the Irish guy says, my daughter's 16. She's 16 years of age. She's a schoolgirl. What do you mean, date her and all this kind of stuff?
That's a bit upset.
Threatens to beat him up and all this kind of stuff. And the guy, recalls in horror, sir, my intentions are honourable and all that. It's all such a load of rubbish.
Baloney.
Meanwhile, she's thinking of, climbing out the bedroom window, to get down and see her lover boy. And honestly, it was such a load of utter rubbish. I can't explain. I don't know why anybody would watch episode 2.
So it's not worth watching episode 2?
It's not worth watching. Don't watch it, honestly.
All right. Anything else going on?
That was on BBC One, by the way, and they've done a lot of really good drama. Well, I thought we should catch up on the Roger Ice situation in Coronation Street.
Oh, yeah.
'Cause it's very complicated now.
Well, I mean, the last time you told me about what was going on in that, it was very hard to follow.
Well, what's happening now is Steve, who owns the cab company.
Right. This will mean something to people who watch it, because I don't, you see.
But also half owns the pub.
Yeah.
Has a girlfriend who used to be the lead singer in that group that won Pop Stars or something.
Pop Idol.
Pop Idol.
What,
you know the one
mean...
Mylene Class was in?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was in the same group as that. Susan Shaw or something.
Suzanne Shaw.
Suzanne Shaw, is it?
I don't know.
I'm not sure. Anyway, I don't think it is, actually. But anyway, she's a very fine-looking girl.
Wasn't there a woman from a girl band that was put in it for a while and then she got kicked out because she wasn't any good?
That was only 3 episodes, and that was Sarah, what's her name?
Sarah Hardy.
Sarah Hardy.
That was from Girls Aloud.
From Girls Aloud, yeah. No,
this is a different girl.
Yeah, this is a different girl, yeah. This is Pop Stars. Anyway, so what happens is, old Steve, for some unknown reason, goes round to see Leanne. Yeah, who's just been in Coronation Street for the last 30 years.
All right.
And decides to get involved in a bit of horizontal refreshment with her.
Right.
For no apparent reason.
She's been in it for 30 years. She must be getting on a bit then.
No, she's been there as child and adult.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Right.
And for no apparent reason, didn't seem to be any connection between the two of them. And then announces that she's pregnant. So Steve's very worried about this.
Right.
Because...
Is Steve married?
Well, but he lives with a girl in the pub. This girl who used to be the singer.
Okay.
So, but at the same time, she's getting broody, and she says, "I think we should have a baby." And he's trying to fight this off, but then he gives in to an invitation for Rogerisation with his partner. And she's now pregnant as well.
So there's 2 girls pregnant by his
that's right. That's right.
hand,
Yeah.
Right.
But at the same time, again, for no apparent reason. Maria is at home one night enjoying a glass of wine when a guy called Aidan comes round.
Sorry, who's Maria?
Well, she's like another long-time...
Well, she's a third woman.
Oh, she's a third woman, yeah. She's a long-time...
Oh, to keep up this.
Coronation Street character who works in the hairdressers.
Yes.
And her favourite word is stupid. I'm so stupid. I'm really stupid. She keeps using the word stupid about herself.
Has she not got a Mancunian accent?
Yeah, she has, yeah.
Well, it sounded like a Cockney accent.
I'm really stupid. I'm stupid,
Right.
you know. And she is pretty stupid because Aidan comes round and they have a bit of horizontal refreshment for no apparent reason,
The
by
same
the way.
guy?
No.
Oh,
Steve's the other one.
Oh,
Steve's
sorry.
the other one,
Okay.
yeah.
Right.
For no apparent reason. And she now thinks she might be pregnant. Meanwhile...
Blimey. So there's going to be a lot of little kids running around then.
Well, it could be, yeah. Aidan's permanent girlfriend is the best-looking girl in the show.
Okay.
Her name's Eva.
Eva.
And she's very shapely.
Is she?
Yeah, very shapely and blonde and alluring.
Okay.
And you kind of wonder why Aidan went round to see Maria for a bit of the old Rogerisation when Eva is at home and anxiously waiting some attention.
Yes.
And wants to move in with Aidan so they can have their own little love nest.
So what's his problem with her then?
Well, I think he thinks she's a bit too thick or something. You know,
Really?
she really is portrayed as the sort of dizzy blonde. You know what I mean?
Okay.
You know, sort of staggering around on high heels, and I'm not being rude to her.
Andrew says, "Do you mean Kim Marsh, Porky?"
Oh, Kim Marsh. Yeah, Kim Marsh. That's the one. Yeah,
So
Kim Marsh.
which one
yeah,
does she play?
Oh, she's the partner, the live-in partner in the pub of Steve.
Okay.
Who has Rogerised Leanne.
Yeah.
Resulting in an imminent, birth. Well, not imminent, but I mean in a few months' time. You know. But Leanne, who's never had a child before, wants the child, and Steve wanted to get rid of it and all this kind of stuff, you know. And then Steve finds out that Kim Marsh is with child and says, "Oh, we don't really want that, do we?" So, you know, he's not exactly parent of the year type material.
No.
And at the same time as all this is going on...
It all sounds a bit grubby, to be honest.
Well, yeah, it all seems to be about relationships. You know, they've got all these same-sex relationships in Coronation Street as well.
Right.
So... Excuse me. You know, one of the guys who's in a same-sex relationship is Billy the Vicar.
Right.
And, Billy's got a bit of a conscience because he doesn't want the local bishop to sort of cotton on to, his intimacy with a, I suppose...
Is he a parishioner?
Well, yeah, but, I mean, he's not just a parishioner. He's also his boyfriend, you know what I mean? And that kind of stuff. And at the same time all that's going on, then some nutty soldier who's also in a same-sex relationship... with her girlfriend who lives in Coronation Street, has had her face put out of joint because her girlfriend now fancies somebody else because the soldier girl, to try and hang on to her girlfriend, pretended she was injured in battle.
Right.
My war wound and all that kind of
God.
stuff. But she didn't have a war wound, you know what I mean? And all this kind of stuff.
I've lost the plot now.
Yeah, and at the same time all that is going on, okay?
See the time, by the way.
Hey, don't worry about the time.
No, I'm worried about the time. The show's nearly over.
Yeah, the same time ago, Liz, who is the sort of landlady of the pub that Steve works in, because Steve kind of owns it, he's her son, is constantly on the lookout for another man. But Liz is, of course, the woman who used to be at the top of the FMP list, the first Mrs. Parry, you know, when she was...
I remember her, yeah.
Yeah, but it's, you know, it's a few years down the line now. So...
You're saying she's not on it anymore?
Well, it's no wonder she's struggling for, a sort of, a horizontal refreshment candidate, put it that way.
It sounds as though you're edging towards moving out of that particular scenario. Well, that was Porky Vision.
Yes.
As we said, Porky's been very, very troubled by his secret mission, so he hasn't been able to watch too much television.
Exactly.
But there'll be more of the same time next week. This is TalkSport.
The Two Mics, simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
Now, what's this? Listen to this.
What is this? What is it?
It's the theme music to a film.
Yeah?
Yeah?
Is it the Elizabeth Taylor film?
What?
Is it the Elizabeth Taylor film?
It's a Martin Scorsese film, just to give you a clue.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
A Martin Scorsese film?
Yes.
Sounds familiar.
Yes.
Can't quite place it.
No. Now, do you know what? Do you know why we're playing this? It's Martin Scorsese's...
Oh, it's Taxi Driver, isn't it?
Exactly. It's Martin Scorsese's...
This is a bit I recognise.
74th birthday. How about that?
How about it?
Yeah. Do you think that's good?
The 17th of November or the 16th?
No, today, the 17th.
Is it?
Yeah.
The only reason I ask is because it was my daughter's birthday yesterday.
Well, of course it was,
and she never mentioned that she shared it with Martin Scorsese.
Well, she didn't, did she? Because that was the 16th.
Well, that's why I'm asking you if it's today or yesterday.
No, it's today.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
All right.
Yeah, Martin Scorsese, film director, Raging Bull.
Yeah.
That was Raging Bull, wasn't it?
No, that was Taxi Driver.
Oh, Taxi Driver, that's right. And Taxi Driver's old.
Have you seen Taxi Driver?
So, yeah, I've seen Taxi Driver, yeah, 74th.
Do you know who's in it?
Yes.
Do you know what the significance of it is in modern American politics?
No.
You don't?
What is it?
Well, Jodie Foster
yes.
plays a teenage prostitute.
That's right, age 13.
Exactly.
Yes.
And do you know who became obsessed with Jodie Foster?
Yes, the taxi driver guy. You know, you talking to me?
No.
Hey?
No.
Oh, didn't he?
No. Well, it wasn't that he became... Well, yeah, he did, but I'm talking about in a political sense.
Oh, in a political sense?
Yeah. The clue would be Ronald Reagan.
Ronald Reagan? Well, Ronald Reagan didn't become obsessed with her.
No, he didn't.
No.
But somebody who shot him did.
Oh, that's right, Hinckley.
That's
right, Hinckley, yeah.
He became obsessed with Jodie Foster.
He did,
and he thought that if he shot the President of the United States, he would somehow be able to get
it would impress Jodie Foster.
On Jodie Foster that he would be able to go and meet her.
That's right, yeah.
That's why Taxi Driver is very significant.
Quite
it's a very brutal film.
I don't think I have seen it, actually, to be honest.
Also, Sybil Shepherd is in it.
Sybil Shepherd,
right.
yeah. Blonde-haired lady.
Yes, who you might remember from her thing with Moonlighting with Bruce Willis.
Yeah, I never saw that either, actually.
That was a TV show.
Yeah, was that about a private detective agency? Yeah, I never saw that.
Well, you should really see... Well, what Scorsese film have you seen?
I've seen, the Great War film with Marlon Brando.
What, Apocalypse Now?
Yes.
That's not by Scorsese.
Oh, is it not? Okay, I thought it was. Is it not?
No.
Okay, I have seen...
What about... Go on.
Raging Bull.
You've seen Raging Bull?
Yeah, I've seen Raging Bull.
Who's that about, then?
It's about Jake LaMotta.
Very good.
And it was a brilliant film.
What's unusual about it?
It was in black and white.
True.
Yeah.
Who plays Jake LaMotta?
Jake LaMotta, De Niro.
Very good.
Yes.
Right. And what was unusual about what he did?
Well, he sort of beat his brother almost to death, thinking his brother had Rogerised his wife, but
he
hadn't.
Did, yes. Well, he was a bit paranoid.
Yes, he was.
But he put on an awful lot of weight and took it off for the part.
Yeah, that's right, he did, yeah.
In fact, I don't think I've ever seen him quite as fat, apart from in The Untouchables.
That's
when
right,
he played Al Capone.
Al Capone. Who played his brother in Raging Bull?
In Raging Bull, I don't know.
No, it's that very famous actor. He was in all the gangster films with him as well.
Was he?
Yeah. Anyway, I'll tell you that in a minute. Now, listen, the reason I thought it was time we had a film score is because I've found the list that's just been published of the top 10 favourite film songs of all time.
Film songs?
Yes.
Okay.
Right. And I don't agree with a lot of these, but you might. Number one, I Will Always Love You, Whitney Houston.
Yes, a great song. Great song. From The Bodyguard.
From The Bodyguard.
Yeah.
Number 2, which I might have put as number 1, Eye of the Tiger.
Eye of the Tiger.
It's the Eye of the Tiger.
Yeah, from Rocky.
From Rocky, that's right. I love that, yeah. Number 3...
That's a pretty good song, you have to say.
Number 3...
It's by his brother, isn't it?
Eh?
It's by his brother.
What do you mean?
Stallone's brother.
Stallone's brother's what?
Stallone's brother makes that song, sings that song. The Eye of the Tiger.
No, he doesn't.
Yeah, he does.
Survivor is the group.
Yeah, that's his band. It's Stallone's brother.
What's Stallone's brother's name?
Stallone.
No, you idiot. His first name.
I don't know. I can't remember. I think it's Frank.
Well, exactly.
Is it Frank?
I don't
Frank
know.
Stallone.
Anyway, the third one, and I've not even ever heard of this film. I've Had the Time of My Life.
Yeah.
Bill Medley, Jennifer Warnes.
What? Well, isn't that from Fame?
The Time of My Life?
Yeah. Isn't it Fame?
Fame, I'm going to live forever. No, it's not
Fame.
Fame.
Is it Flashdance?
Oh, it's Flashdance, is it?
Isn't it Flashdance?
No, it's not Flashdance. That's Jennifer Beals, isn't it?
Is it Dirty Dancing?
I don't know.
I know the song. I can't place it.
Anyway, the fourth one is My Heart Will Go On by Celine Dion.
Yes. Well, that's Titanic.
Oh, is that Titanic?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Now, the fifth one, and this would get up into my top 2, Take My Breath Away, Berlin.
Yes, from
Take
Top Gun.
My breath. Yeah, now, listen, in Top Gun, that's a great film. But
isn't.
What's the other one that starts as the plane lands on the deck? You know, I can take you up to the sky. You know, that one. You know, the second song in
Well, is that not Top Gun as well?
Yeah, it is Top Gun. Yeah, but I'm trying to say I don't know what that one is.
What the name of the song is.
Yeah,
yeah, but it's not. I mean, that's not really the theme of the movie, is it?
I know, but it's a better song.
Highway to the Danger Zone.
Highway to the Danger Zone. Brilliant. I love it. Yeah, okay.
Shouldn't we have done this earlier in the show? We could have played all this stuff.
Well, no, because we don't want to play music all the time. This is the one.
Yeah, you like this one?
Oh, brilliant.
It's all very 80s, this stuff, isn't it?
This is better than
Isn't
Berlin.
this the one they play when they're all oiled up playing volleyball?
Yeah, I think it is, actually, yeah.
It's very sort of...
it's brilliant,
It is very homoerotic, this film, isn't it?
Is it?
Don't you think?
Don't know.
Don't know.
Well, there's a lot of Rogerising going on in the shower and things.
What? Really?
See, that to me...
That's terrible. I hate that. I hate Top Gun.
No,
I hate it.
Oh, I love it. And that, to me, is a very evocative sound of aeroplanes taking off and shooting through the air.
It's got nothing to do with that.
It's great. Anyway, listen.
By the way, Andrew's tweeted in. He says, Steve on Coronation Street, who owns the pub, is actually called Tim.
No, he's not.
Well, he says he's pretty sure he's called Tim.
He's not. He's called Steve.
Are you
honestly.
sure?
I know. I've been watching it for 50 years. Yeah,
right.
that's definitely called Steve.
Right.
Now then, just to run through the last few.
Yes.
Number 6, Mrs. Robinson, Simon and Garfunkel.
Yes.
Great record.
Fantastic.
I love that.
Yeah.
Number 7, The Bare Necessities, The Jungle Book. We got the bare necessities.
That's
the
a good
simple
rendition of
bare
it.
necessities,
But isn't that a bit...
The simple bare necessities of life.
But isn't that a bit tricky, trying to bring in an animated film?
Well, I think it is.
Because you could bring any number of Disney themes in, couldn't you?
Yeah, I suppose you could, yeah.
What else?
Right, what's left here is You're the One That I Want, John Travolta and Olivia Newton-John.
Yeah, that was
in Greece.
Grease, wasn't it?
Yeah, I never saw Grease.
Have they not got Saturday Night Live, Saturday Night Fever?
Well, if you just listen. Number 9.
I didn't know. I've never seen... I mean, I've seen Grease clips, but I've never watched it all the way through.
Well, on top of the pops, it was I think it was the last 4 minutes of the film, wasn't it? The two of them singing that, dressed in black leather.
Yeah.
Number 9, Stand By Me, Benny King.
Yes, that was the movie Stand By Me, I think.
Oh, was there a movie called Stand By Me? Was
I think so, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That was, I'll tell you what that was, you know, when the night is dark.
Yes.
And the day is gone.
Yeah.
You know, and the
moon.
And the moon is floating in the sky.
It's not floating in the
sky.
Know?
Stand By Me. Now, that's the only song that John Lennon ever covered because he thought it was so brilliant and he wished he'd written it himself.
You mean on his own?
On his own, yeah.
Well, it is a great song.
And the John Lennon version is better than the original.
Benny King, isn't it?
Benny King, that's
right.
right.
It's a great song.
And number 10, which you've already mentioned in anticipation, Staying Alive by the Bee Gees.
Yes.
From Saturday Night Fever.
Well, I guess you can't really argue. I mean, the trouble is with all these lists, I mean, you could probably think of a few others that you should include.
Yes.
But you wouldn't argue with most of those songs because they're very popular
great.
songs.
Yeah, I think they're great. Yeah, very good indeed.
Now, Kenny Loggins was the Danger Zone man, according to Alan.
Danger Zone?
Yeah, the Danger Zone song that you just heard. It was Kenny Loggins.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah.
Who also did Footloose, I think.
Oh, yeah, Footloose. Oh, I'll tell you what I loved. I loved Flashdance. What a feeling.
Yeah. Didn't we cover that?
Feeling. No. I don't think so.
Now, David in Notts says this. Good morning, lads. Talking of bringing drinks back, that was the Lambrusco conversation. I wish they'd bring back my old favourite Colt 45 beer. Used to love that malty taste.
Really?
Well, I remember when Colt 45 malt liquor was made available back in the sort of late 70s, right?
Yeah.
And I went to America to discover that it was not at all a trendy drink to drink, whereas it had become quite a trendy drink here. It was basically sold in all the poor neighbourhoods of every city I went to.
Oh, really?
And not at all sold in any of the places where I would normally go to a bar.
Well, there you are, you see. Oh, you know. Okay. The drink that I wish I could still drink, but I can't touch it anymore because of an unfortunate experience.
Experience?
Yeah, when I was younger, is Bacardi and Coke. Cuba Libre,
yeah.
Cuba Libre.
Didn't you used to drink that when you were in Mallorca or whatever?
Yeah, but to such excess that I was ill for 3 days once when I was about 17. And I just can't drink it. I can't even smell it now because if I do, I get ill.
Well, is that because of the Coke or because of the Bacardi?
Oh, because of the Bacardi. You know, I just drink too much of it. I used to like Bacardi so much, I used to lace my beer with it, you see.
Really?
Well, I'd bring home a duty-free bottle and go down the pub, and then just to pep up, the strength of my pint of beer, I'd pour a slug of Bacardi in it.
No.
But I did that one night, and it happened to excess, and I was violently ill. So I've decided, I just can't touch it anymore, I'm afraid.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mike, the Spurs fan, says, what on earth are the pair of you on about? Frank Stallone was not in the band Survivor.
Well, exactly.
The time
I
of
didn't
your
know what
life
you were on
was
about.
from Dirty Dancing.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think we got Dirty Dancing. It's Mike and Isha. Well, thanks for that.
Yeah.
Did Tom Cruise stand on a box in Top Gun? This says David. That's another one.
No, I don't think he had to, no.
We're almost out of time, you know.
We are.
This is Talk Sport.
Look at the light! Don't forget to come back tomorrow for another sparkling, as fizzy as a bottle of champagne podcast from the two mics. The Yamal Nennet tribe.
Who are they?
These are wandering, nomadic type people.
All right.
There's 6,000 of them.
6,000?
Yeah.
Not very many.
And guess what their job is?
I don't know, killing reindeer.
No, all 6,000 of them are reindeer shepherds. What's your problem?
So you now say that you'd be happy to fly first class in the front of the plane, is that what you're saying?
Well, only if the plane crashed backward first, if you see what I mean,
If you love the Two Mics podcast, you'll love the live show. Weekday overnights from 1am on DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM and via the TalkSport app. TalkSport, your Premier League station with exclusive commentaries every weekend.
What an absolute corker!
TalkSport.
It is affordable housing that I provide.
Well, it's affordable if you're an Egyptian doctor.
No, it's affordable if you can afford it.